This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate first part of What If Naruto Awakens Dark Chakra. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto had a childhood friend, a girl with white hair named Yukino. They did everything together and Naruto started calling her Yuki as a nickname. Also, they figured out that she had a Kakegenkai. She can do ice techniques because one time when Naruto and Yukino were by a huge lake, Yukino almost fell in, but Naruto pulled her to him and that made him almost fall in the water, but when he was about to fall in, the lake turned to ice. They were so surprised that they went to the Hokage to tell him, and so she started training early, and at some point Naruto had developed feelings for her. But everything changed when she started dating Sasuke Uchiha. They still hung out, but it began to become less and less, and Naruto was heartbroken when he saw Sasuke and Yukino together, and so he tended to put on a mask to hide his true self, and so he became the dead last that everyone thought he was. But despite what he felt, he was truly happy for Yukino, even though it hurts a lot. Then Naruto was put on a 4-person team which had Yukino Kira, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. So they were Team 7 and their sensei was Kakashi Hitaki. Fast forward to when they had the wave mission and Sasuke almost died thanks to the hunter Nin, Haku. Both Yukino and Sakura were crying over the Uchiha's body, but when Sasuke opened his eyes, Yukino kissed him right in front of Naruto and Sakura. Naruto's mask slipped for a second before he controlled himself and forced a smile at the two. Sakura on the other hand had to force the two apart. Then when they were back to the village, Kakashi has assigned his team for the Chunin exams, but they were tested by Iruka, their old academy teacher, and they passed. So by the start of the first part of the exam was a paper test which Naruto wasn't happy about, but in the end Naruto made a speech that if he were to stay a genin he would strive to become Hokage regardless, and that gave some of the other genin some backbone, and so they passed the first exam. The second part of the exam, well, it didn't go so well. They had to survive in Training Ground 44, aka the Forest of Death, while trying to get a Heaven or Earth scroll from enemy teams. Then halfway through, enemy teams tried posing as Naruto to try and get their scroll but failed. Team 7 was then ambushed by a grass ninja which they now know as Orochimaru, one of the Sannin, who then started his assault on the team, but then they were surprised when they saw he had backup and then put some seal on Naruto's stomach that made him unconscious, then gave Sasuke some kind of hiki that started screaming in pain when the snake Sannin bit him in his neck. Yukino was about to get Naruto and Sasuke, but more ninjas started appearing. Sasuke saw this, and with the remaining strength he got him and the girls out of there, leaving Naruto behind by himself. Yukino was trying to get Naruto, but there was just too many of them and made the decision to just flee with Sasuke and Sakura. The others didn't know that Naruto was still conscious and saw the whole thing. He even saw Yukino had a look of regret on her face and then turned around to leave him behind before he went unconscious. Naruto was now alone, angry, confused, sad, betrayed, and most of all heartbroken. That his team and most of all Yukino abandoned him to save themselves, but unknown to him this turn of event that have occurred will change his life forever. An old legend from long ago centers on two characters: the Black Prince of Darkness, symbolized by the black cat, and the White Maiden of the Sky, represented by the white cat. The Black King of Darkness led the demons in their attack on the Skylands during the concurrent battle between the Guardians of Light and the demons. But the Black Prince disobeyed the Black King's orders and fell in love with the White Maiden, hoping that their union would put an end to the war. Naruto's thoughts: when he was hurting and staring into the abyss, Naruto felt nothing. He had no idea where he was or who cared. He was so overcome with emotion and physical memory of what had happened a long time ago that he forgot how much time had passed. Rewind. He and his group began the second phase of the Chunin exams at Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death. They broke for a bit while Naruto was away, and some opposing teams attempted to pose as him to obtain their team's scrolls, but were unsuccessful because Yukino and Sasuke could tell the imposter wasn't Naruto simply by glancing at him. When a grass ninja ambushed Naruto's team while he was trapped inside a snake that was eating him, Yukino and Sasuke both tried to fight back, but it was ineffective. At that point, Naruto showed up to try to help, but he was shocked and upset when Sasuke was going to give the scroll to the enemy ninja so they could escape. Naruto leapt and caught the scroll, putting it in his weapon pouch. Sasuke began to yell at Naruto to stop being a fool, but he was caught off guard when Naruto sucker punched him in the face, sending him back to his other teammates who were shocked by what Naruto had done. Naruto went on to accuse Sasuke of being a fake based on his behavior, calling him a coward for avoiding the situation rather than confronting it head on. Just then, the grass ninja summoned a snake, which was now charging at the Uchiha and the other members of Naruto's team. Just as the ninja was about to attack them, Naruto moved to block the snake's path. shocking Yukino, Sasuke, and Sakura by using 2 kunai to stab the snake in the areas of his face that it was approaching. Subsequently, Naruto raised his head to see the startled expressions on the faces of his teammates. Yukino, Sasuke, and Sakura were staring at Naruto, whose features had changed. He now had fangs, wild hair, red eyes with a slit in the middle, and darker whisker marks than before. Naruto then began punching the snake, sending it flying back. The others were taken aback by his strength and questioned whether this was indeed Naruto. Naruto was about to fall to the ground when Yukino threw a kunai, which caused him to stick to a tree and hang there. At that moment, the female grass ninja wrapped Naruto up and lifted him up. Naruto tried to break free but felt excruciating pain in his stomach. He looked down to see what had happened and saw a second seal on his stomach. Then the snake let him go. It was at that moment that Sasuke composed himself and began fighting the grass ninja without their knowledge. Naruto was staring at the whole thing, barely clinging to consciousness. Sasuke unleashed a fresh fire jutsu on the grass ninja, causing their skin to peel off and revealing a face with green reptilian eyes. The figure then reached out and bit Sasuke's neck, leaving him screaming in agony and sporting an odd mark on his neck. Naruto attempted to move but was barely hanging on. He then departed, saying that Sasuke would seek him out to acquire power. Sakura and Yukino hurried to Sasuke's side, holding his hand in an unsuccessful attempt to ease his pain, while Naruto only observed from a distance. Just then, 2 sound ninjas showed up and began fighting Naruto's team, which didn't seem good for them. As soon as Sasuke realized that the 2 kunoichi were losing ground, he told them to retreat. The 2 girls nodded, and Yukino attempted to grab Naruto, but Sasuke stopped her, telling her that they had to leave him behind. Shocked that her boyfriend would say such a thing, Yukino retorted, saying that they couldn't just leave him. They then attempted in vain to break free from Sasuke's hold and saw more enemy ninja approaching them. Yukino gave Naruto a regretful look, clenching her teeth. He went unconscious after realizing that Naruto had been observing the entire time. Flashback ends here. After that, Naruto was lost in thought and didn't know where he was. He was just staring at nothing but darkness. Why? With emotionless, lifeless eyes, Naruto thought. Although he had felt pain like this before, this was the first time he had felt so abandoned and betrayed. Yukino had been his childhood friend and crush, and the knowledge that she had abandoned him had scarred his heart. Naruto then began to look around him. All he could see was black, an unending abyss. He began to sit up a little and stand up, albeit unsteadily, then looked around once more to see if he could find anything, but it was still completely dark. Step, Naruto turned around quickly, but there was nothing there. He was watching his surroundings carefully. Step, Naruto pivoted once more, only to see nothing once more, so he cautiously started to back away. Step, when Naruto turned around again, he saw a boy who was taller than him and had black hair with a hint of red flowing down it. He was also dressed unusually, but he couldn't say anything because he was wearing an orange jumpsuit. The taller boy was wearing black clothing that resembled a trench coat with red accents, as well as some sort of armor, which Naruto thought was cool. He was also wearing black gloves with red knuckle guards, but something wasn't quite right as the figure had a black and red aura surrounding him, though it wasn't evil or terrible. Despite this, Naruto called out to the figure. Hello? The figure was staring in a particular direction with something like longing, but he didn't say anything or move. Hello? Once more, he remained motionless and ignored Naruto's remarks. Rising to the occasion, Naruto was about to approach him when he paused to observe what he was staring at. He was unable to say anything more, but it was evident that the girl had white feathered wings and was dressed strangely, too. She had armor, like plates on her chest, and a dress resembling white and silver, but there was something else about her as well. Similar to the black-haired figure, she is creating a white and blue aura around herself. Naruto attempted to cry out, but the girl suddenly disappeared in front of him. He turned to face the figure with the black hair, but he was still staring at the location where the girl had vanished. This time, when Naruto asked, "Did you know her?" he received a response, albeit a small nod that indicated something. What was her name? The figure fell silent once more, but then he turned to face Naruto. When Naruto looked in his direction, he saw that he had green eyes staring down at him. Suddenly, he disappeared, just like the girl, and he was left alone in the dark. Hey wait, while yelling, Naruto left too soon. Without knowing what to do, Naruto stood there. Suddenly, a reddish-black orb appeared and approached him. He simply stared at it. Unknown to him, but for some reason, Naruto is drawn to it. He approaches it cautiously and extends his hand to touch it. His body started to shake violently as he began to see images of what appeared to be memories of a floating island in the clouds and on the earth. He also saw the two figures he had seen earlier, but they were younger and something about a promise. After that, he started to get a lot of information, but it became too much, and he clutched his head in pain as he took it all in. He then just sank to the ground, opening his eyes wide at what he was teaching, until he heard footsteps approaching and raised his head slightly to see the black-haired figure once more staring down at him. "I'm counting on you, Naruto Uzumaki, now wake up." At that moment, Naruto goes dark. Death Forest. The forest of death began to rain as dark clouds encircled the sky. Naruto's eyes suddenly open, turning from their normal blue color to green as a dark light appears to surround him. Unknown place. A female with white hair and purple eyes was flying through the sky with her two white feathered wings, but she abruptly stopped and turned to face the dark clouds where a pillar of dark light was shining. "What's happening?" She said that as a second female appeared. She had the same pair of white feathered wings and silver white hair, and she moved aside from the other female. The other woman said, "He has woken up." "Wait, you mean?" Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the other woman nodded and grinned affectionately. "Yes, the Dark Prince, my beloved, has finally awakened." There was a legend about two cats. One day, a black cat looking up from the surface mud saw the noble white cat sitting on the throne in the sky, and the two fell in love. Unknown address. With the rain still falling on their heads, the two females continued to stare in the direction of the black pillar of light. "What should we do, Iris? Should we go to him?" the woman asked, glancing at the other woman, who was now going by the name Iris. Iris was considering her options since her sweetheart had finally woken up and she was eager to see him again. However, as she remembered something, she cast a sorrowful glance downward. "As much as I want to, we can't not yet anyway," Iris replied. "But why don't you want to see him?" the perplexed other woman questioned. "Of course I do, Celeste, but remember when you first awakened to our power, I couldn't manifest for quite a while. I only got to speak to you in your mind," Iris said calmly, turning to face her partner. "My beloved's partner will be confused as to who we are and might try to attack us if we go now," Iris said. Celeste, the other female, made a "oh" face as she recalled, but her expression changed to one of confusion when she reached the final section. Celeste exclaimed, "Why would he attack us?" Iris explained, staring at the dim light that was beginning to fade, "Me and my beloved powers are opposite to each other right now. His partner is not in the right state of mind as of right now." After explaining things to her friends and partners, Celeste simply nodded. "Was I like that? I don't remember anything at the time, only bits and pieces of it." Iris gave a nod. "Yes you were, but you had only little control of it, that's why you remember some of it," Iris replied. Celeste nodded, gazing thoughtfully down. "Will his partner experience the same outcome?" Celeste asked, her gaze rising to the nearly gone dark light. "It's difficult to say, really, it depends on my beloved's partner," she remarked before sticking out her arms and revealing a white cat silhouette in the form of light particles in her hands. Subsequently, it materialized in Iris's arms as she attempted to shield the cat from moisture. After that, the white cat opened its eyes and turned to face Iris. "Yes, Iris?" inquired the white cat. Iris said to the white cat, whose eyes widened upon hearing her, "Chakra, I need you to look after my beloved's partner for me, can you do that?" "He's awake." "Yay!" exclaimed Chakra, bouncing with excitement. It makes sense that the two girls giggled at the cat's antics. "Yes, he is, and I need you to look after him for the time being." Confused, Chakra questioned, "You're not going to see him?" Celeste told the cat, "As of right now we're not, but we will at some point." Chakra glanced at Iris, who merely nodded. Chakra saluted the two girls, causing them to giggle once more. "You can count on me, Iris, Celeste, I'll look after him, don't you worry." "We're counting on you, Chakra, be careful now." "Right." The two girls watched as the cat vanished in white particles, heading towards the now faded dark energy. Iris said, glancing at Celeste, "We should be leaving now, there's a lot to prepare for when we see him." "All right." After that, she took off and Iris vanished on her own. The Hokage Tower a short while ago, sigh. Damn paperwork, as usual. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was in his office finishing paperwork when he noticed the images of the previous Hokage hanging on the wall and exclaimed, "How did y'all do it?" As he resumed his work, he sighed and thought. Knock. Knock. There was a knock on the door at that moment. Hiruzen looked up and motioned for the person to come in. Anko Mitarashi, the second Chunin exam instructor. and two of her subordinates entered when the door opened. "Ah, Anko. What can I do you for? I came to give you a report on the Chunin exams and what we found in the forest Hokage." "Sama," said Anko. Hiruzen straightened up in his seat and focused entirely on the female Kunoichi, adopting a serious expression akin to that of a Hokage. "As of right now, one team from the Sand Village has made it to the tower already while the rest is still in the forest," said she. Hiruzen was taken aback by this information because no team had ever reached the tower on the first day of the previous Chunin exams. He looked down and remarked, "Well, it looks like the Sand Village has a good crop this year." "Yes, it seems so, but there's something else as well," replied Anko. Hiruzen raised her gaze once more to hear Anko touched Hiruzen's neck and said, "We found 3 dead corpses with no faces, as if they were melted off. We found out that they are ninja from the hidden village of Grass who registered for the Chunin exams." "I'd like to see their application," he said. Hiruzen was given a folder by one of the 2 ninjas, which he opened and examined. After a while, he closed it and cast a contemplative glance down. Thinking back on the information he had been given, Hiruzen thought he knew who was behind this based on Anko's behavior. He was about to say, "Anko, I want you too," when a powerful surge of energy engulfed Konoha, causing the 2 ninjas next to Anko to gasp in exhaustion. Anbu in a cat mask materialized in front of Hiruzen and bowed, saying, "Hokage. Sama, you need to see this." As he stood up, Hiruzen exclaimed, "Cat, what's going on?" "I don't know, Hokage. Sama." All of a sudden a black beam went up to the air in the Forest of Death, said the Anbu. Hiruzen and Anko hurried to the window and peered outside, where they saw a barely perceptible black beam caused by rain clouds shooting up into the sky. Although the black beam was far away from them, they could still feel its raw strength, so they couldn't ignore it. Hiruzen gave his Anbu the order, "Get an Anbu squad in the Forest of Death and find out what that is now." "Yes, Hokage. Sama," the Anbu said, nodding before disappearing. "As for you, Anko, I'll have you handle this, since you're responsible for the second exam, and I'm pretty sure you have an idea who is behind it, right?" replied he. Anko asked, "Yes, Hokage. Sama, but why do you think I can do it?" He smiled warmly and said, "You are one of my most skilled and trusted Kunoichi. I trust you that you can handle it." Anko said, "Yes, Hokage. Sama, I won't fail you," and vanished. After nodding, Hiruzen glanced out the window once more, noticing a black energy that had vanished, and he wondered what to make of it all. Death Forest. While Sasuke lay unconscious with a wet rag on his forehead, Sakura was the only person tending to him despite her injuries, and Yukino just sat away from them, not even trying to help her boyfriend, as she contemplated what she had done. The remaining members of Team 7 were now seeking shelter from the rain in a large trunk of a tree that they had discovered. Sakura remarked behind Yukino, "You could help, you know." Yukino apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I just have a lot on my mind right now." She got up and approached her 2 teammates. "What's wrong?" inquired Sakura. She answered, "I'm just worried about Naruto." "Why?" Yukino cast a bewildered glance at Sakura. "What do you mean why? We left him in the forest alone," she said. Sakura stated plainly, "You should concentrate on Sasuke right now. Naruto can take care of himself," but Yukino bowed her head. "It's supposed to mean what?" she questioned. "All I am saying is as Sasuke's girlfriend, he should be your top priority right now, instead of thinking about another boy," she responded. "Excuse me, I'm going to worry about Naruto regardless. He's my childhood friend and I care for him," Yukino responded with rage. "Whatever, if I was Sasuke's girlfriend I wouldn't stop until he was all better," said Sakura. "Well, hate to break it to you but he's not. Look, I'm not arguing with you. Tomorrow morning we're looking for Naruto after Sasuke is better," Yukino stated without any room for argument. Sakura simply nodded and cast a worried glance at Sasuke. "I'm sorry, it's just with all that's happened I'm just worked up," Sakura replied. "I apologize as well. I'm just concerned for Sasuke and Naruto," Yukino said. Worried, Yukino inquired, "Do you think Naruto will forgive us for leaving him?" Sakura simply grinned and glanced at her anxious teammate. Sakura attempted to reassure them, saying, "Come on, it's Naruto we're talking about, he'll forgive us for sure," but she had no idea that. That gave Yukino a smile. "Thank you, Sakura." Suddenly, there was a surge of force that brought the 2 women to their knees. Yukino wondered, this power, where's it coming from? As she struggled to stand up and turn to Sakura, who was not faring much better, she suddenly felt her breathing become uncontrollable as she looked up and saw the dark energy pillar. The brief power spike was followed by the pillar of dark energy fading away in a matter of minutes. What was that? A shaky Sakura exclaimed. Without responding, Yukino squinted her eyes in the direction of the dark energy that was. We must exercise caution, Yukino cautioned Sakura, who merely nodded tremblingly. Sakura, I'm counting on you to take care of Sasuke while I set some traps and get us some food. Sakura said, all right, but are you sure it's still raining? She said, yeah, plus we can't fight on an empty stomach, right? Sakura simply shook her head no. All right, but be careful, okay. With a nod, Yukino disappeared, leaving Sakura to tend to Sasuke. Naruto, please be okay, Yukino thought, skipping time. After several hours, the rain eventually stopped, making it nighttime in the Forest of Death. Sakura and Yukino were chowing down on fish that Yukino had caught from a nearby lake. Sakura was trying to stay awake while Yukino was keeping an eye on her. Sakura wished she was in Yukino's position at this moment. Maybe just for a little while, she thought to herself as she slowly closed her eyes. I can't sleep yet, she thought, struggling to keep her eyes open. The dreamy Yukino opened her eyes gradually and briefly blinked. Rubbing her eyes, Yukino thought, looks like I dozed off. She turned to see Sakura and Sasuke waking up when she heard shuffling behind her and grinned. Sakura joyfully remarked, thank goodness, you're awake. Happy you're okay, Yukino remarked. Taking the wet rag off his forehead, he said, did you two take care of me? Thank you. Actually, Sakura is the one that took care of you while I went to set up traps and food. Sasuke gave Sakura a quick smile after turning to face his girlfriend. I owe you one, Sakura. Thank you, Sasuke uttered. You're welcome. Oh, speaking of which, we still have some fish left, are you hungry? Sakura inquired, blushing in response to his remark. Yukino went over to the leftover fish and gave Sasuke one right then, causing the girls to giggle and him to blush with shame. Here you go, gratitude, he answered. You're welcome, and after you eat we have to go find Naruto, said Yukino. Oh right, Sasuke exclaimed as he looked down and began to eat. When they heard shuffling coming from the bushes after Sasuke finished his meal, they grabbed a kunai and assumed a fighting stance. Sasuke exclaimed, who's there? The shuffle resumed, and suddenly, Naruto. As Naruto emerged from the tightly coiled bushes, he started to cough and breathe heavily. He then turned to face Sakura, Sasuke, and Yukino, who were staring at him with wide eyes. Naruto gave a feeble smile and held up his hand. Hey Gaisa. Cough. Cough. Naruto uttered before beginning to cough. They yelled, Naruto, and hurried over to him, who was about to fall, but Yukino managed to catch him. Yukino, happy that Naruto was okay, let him down gently on his back, tears welling up in her eyes. Naruto, I'm so glad you're okay. Yukino gave him a tender hug. Well, it appears that you succeeded, you dope, Sasuke remarked, smirking and crossing his arms. Obviously, I'm fine. It will take a lot to bring me down, Naruto exclaimed, causing Yukino to chuckle before adopting a serious expression. Confused, what's wrong, Yukino? He inquired. Yukino turned to face Naruto, who had a puzzled expression. Naruto. I'm sorry, Yukino said, casting a downward glance. For what? He inquired, still bewildered. We left you there all by yourself while we only left you with those sound ninjas, so. I'm sorry, Yukino said. After a little silence, Naruto remarked, Yukino, I'm not upset at all. I forgive you. I'm just glad that you're safe, and that's important to me. At Naruto's words, Yukino flushed and grinned at him. I'm very happy, thanks, Naruto, she exclaimed. Naruto grinned and said, no problem, by the way, I'm hungry, do you guys have any food or anything? Yeah, I'll go get it for you. When Yukino turned to retrieve the remaining fish, she noticed that Sakura and Sasuke were conversing with Naruto, but Orochimaru was standing behind him, grinning menacingly. When Yukino abandoned the meal and began sprinting in the direction of her group, Orochimaru leapt and his hands transformed into snakes, firing shots at Naruto. Yukino attempted to scream at them but was unable to do so as she ran with all of her strength and her white hair flying in the wind. Her teammates would always pull away from her as the snakes continued to move closer to Naruto each time she approached them. Then she witnessed Naruto being drawn away into a shadowy void behind him as the snakes clung to his arms. With tears in her eyes, Yukino attempted to cry out but remained silent. She saw Naruto struggling to escape but failing, and as he was about to enter the void, a massive snake swallowed him whole. Yukino stared wide-eyed as she was left alone before everything turned black. Dreams end. Naruto! Yukino exclaimed, startling Sakura awake in the process. Yukino was looking down, thinking about what she had just seen, her eyes wide as tears streamed down her cheeks. Sakura questioned the now shaking Yukino. Yukino, what's wrong? Why did you scream? I saw Naruto. Yukino was unable to complete her sentence and simply closed her eyes in an attempt to hold back her tears. Sakura attempted to comfort Yukino by giving her a quick hug from behind. In an attempt to reassure her friend, she said, Naruto will be fine, you'll see. Yukino got up gradually and gave her a nod. Gratitude, Sakura. Yukino grinned at her companion. Shuffle. The two girls assumed a fighting stance when they heard shuffling coming from the bushes behind them, but Yukino then remembered her dream and lowered her guard a little. Subsequently, a small squirrel emerged from the shrubbery and made its way towards the girls, much to Sakura's delight and Yukino's disappointment. When Yukino notices that the squirrel is too near the traps she set, she throws a kunai to frighten it away and ensure it doesn't set off the traps. Yukino sighed, that was close, in her opinion. Sakura said, why did you do that? The mouse was too close to my traps, it would have triggered if it got too close, replied Yukino. Sakura hummed and simply nodded. I thought for sure that would work. Do you think she saw the paper bomb we put on the squirrel? Said an individual. Another voice said, no, that wasn't it. Then what was it? What are you thinking? The voice repeated, I think we should get closer and find out. So let's get going. It was becoming very difficult for Sakura and Yukino to stay awake and keep watch in their current states when they heard a familiar voice. Some look out, you both are half asleep, at least you both don't have to keep watch anymore. What's the point when we already found you? Now wake Sasuke up, we want to fight him. Sakura got up and said, you guys again. 3 ninjas wore song note headbands from their battle with Orochimaru. These were the ones who caused them to break away from Naruto. Yukino stood up as well and assumed a fighting stance, exclaiming, where is Naruto? What did you do to him? Oh, you mean that blonde teammate of yours? We don't know what happened to him, nor do we care, we're just here for Sasuke, replied a sound ninja. The female sound ninja laughed at the conclusion, saying, plus we saw what happened. You guys abandoned him all on his own. At this point it won't surprise me if he despises you all now. Why you bastards? Yukino pondered. What are you saying? What is it you're after? I know Orochimaru is calling the shots from the shadows. What's that strange mark behind Sasuke's neck? Sakura inquired. What? Well, I can't stay quiet after hearing you talk to us like that. Once I'm done with you both, I'm going to kill Sasuke. Wait, Zaku? Why? Exclaimed Zaku, the ninja. So predictable. This is the color of dirt that's just been dug up, and this kind of grass doesn't grow in a place like this. You know, if you are going to lay a trap, there's no point if it's not actually hidden, said the sound ninja. TCH. Sakura tightened her mouth. How pitiful. That kunai was so the squirrel wouldn't be caught in the trap, replied Zaku. Yukino looked down and placed her hands on the ground without saying anything. Now let's get this over with. With a sly smile, Sakura pulled out a kunai and cut a thin piece of wire, causing a large log to fall down on top of the 3 sound ninja and towards the 2 kunoichi. A log? She laid one from above, watch out. The person in the blue jacket gave the log a sly grin as it approached them and raised his arm. The massive log exploded, and the sound of the ninja said, just kidding, little girl. Clearly you have no talent as a ninja. Somehow you need more effort, don't you think? With her hands still on the ground, Yukino continued to look down. She smirked slightly and muttered, ice style. Icicle chains. Clank. 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 The 3 sound ninja were startled when some ice chains suddenly rose up from the ground, trapping them and forcing them to fall to the ground as the chains wrapped around their legs. Bam! A cloud of smoke appeared as the ninja fell to the ground. As the smoke cleared, Yukino looked up and saw the 3 injured sound ninja. What was that? Didn't you just say that a trap isn't good enough if it wasn't hidden? She asked. However, you didn't utilize any hand signals, Zaku angrily remarked. It's simple. I knew you were watching us the whole time, Yukino said. Rewind, Yukino said. Sakura, I need you to stay calm, as she peered at the ground. Sakura inquired, what do you mean? With wide eyes, Yukino said to Sakura, we're being watched right now. WER? Was her stutter. Yukino was nodding and gesturing with her hands. Yes, after finishing I need you to listen to me. I have a plan, Yukino stated, looking up. Sakura looked attentively and nodded. Alright, here's what we'll do. Flashback's conclusion. The three just grinned, but the other sound ninja remarked, I see. Well, now we know not to underestimate you. The two girls were taken aback when the three ninjas suddenly transformed into logs and pivoted, giving the impression that they were about to launch an attack. A recognizable voice said, "Leaf Hurricane." At that moment, a green blur appeared on screen as the figure sent the three sound ninjas flying back with a kick. The two girls recognized Rock Lee from Team Guy as the figure that landed in front of them. As the sound ninja assumed a taijutsu stance, Lee said to them, "Triple teaming on two girls are the most unyouthful." "What? This man?" Sakura pondered. "Who are you?" asked the invisible ninja. "I'm the handsome devil of the Leaf Village, and my name is Rock Lee." Sakura inquired from behind, "What are you doing here, Lee?" "I will always appear, when and where you are in trouble, Sakura," said Lee. Sakura retorted, "But we're your enemy right now." "That doesn't matter right now, I vow to protect you with my life," Lee said. Oh, thank you, Rock Lee." As Yukino turned to face Lee, she saw him smiling and crying with joy, his fist clenched. The sight caused her perspiration to fall. The sound ninja gave Zaku the scroll and charged at Lee, saying, "Looks like I have no choice, Zaku. I'll let you have Sasuke." At that moment, Yukino was attacked by the female sound ninja, who engaged in combat with her. The sound ninja questioned, "Do you really think you and that boy can defeat us?" "We won't know unless we try, right?" Yukino shot back, giving the woman a knee to the stomach and a punch to the back. Lee exclaimed, "Primary Lotus." The two girls came to a stop when they noticed Lee and the other making noise like ninjas as they spun quickly toward the ground. Zaku gestured with his hands and pointed to the ground where something was being shoved into the ground in the direction of the two. Bam! Lee leapt back to gain some space as he and the other sound ninja made contact with the earth. The other sound, the ninja, was in the ground first, but the dirt appeared to be softer in some way as the dust cleared. "Ah!" Yukino took a strong air blast to the back. "You should pay attention to your opponents," said Zaku. Yukino bowed her head and made hand signals as well. Ice style. Frozen wind. A blast of cold air shot out of Yukino's arms. And were moving in the direction of Zaku, but he just sent another blast of air that cancelled it. "Ah!" Glancing over, Yukino saw Lee clutching his ear on the ground. "Lee!" Yukino exclaimed, running toward him but stopping short due to the female ninja sound. "Sorry, but you're occupied right now," Yukino yelled, "Get out of my way," while displaying yet another set of hand signals. Ice style. Frozen hail. Little icicle fired quickly at the female ninja, sending her back and causing her to cry out in agony. "Ah!" Glancing over at Lee, who was shielding Sakura from the other sound ninja, Yukino. Screeching sound wave. She was about to approach them when there was a loud screech, and she fell to the ground, clutching her ears in agony. "Ah!" exclaimed Yukino. Zaku said, hovering over her, "You're too much of a problem, we'll deal with you later." When Yukino tried to look up, she could hardly see anything because everything was so blurry. Sakura exclaimed, "Ah!" Yukino turned slowly to barely see the female ninja yank Sakura's hair in her direction. Yukino attempted to stand, but is having difficulties. Zaku said, "You can forget about moving for a while, it's useless," as he made his way over to where Sasuke was. Yukino made a fruitless attempt to stand up, but she was unable to do so. Cut. Glancing over, Yukino saw Sakura cut her hair with the kunai she was holding. Everyone was taken aback by this development, as they remained motionless. Next, Sakura used the substitute jutsu to start a fight with Zaku. She was able to stab him with a kunai and begin to bite his arm as he struck her head with the other. Sakura, Yukino thought, trying to stand up but failing, but her eyesight has improved and she can see well now. When Team 10 suddenly appeared in front of Sakura, the sound ninja managed to free Sakura from him and was ready to launch an attack. Sakura questioned, "Ino. But why?" Stunned. "I'm not going to let you and Yukino hog all the glory now, am I?" Ino replied. "Dude, this is a lot of trouble," Shikamaru remarked in a lethargic manner. The sound ninja exclaimed, "Oh great, they're coming like cockroaches. Are you too crazy? What are we doing here? These guys are bad news, man." Choji responded with fright. "Don't look at me, it was Ino's idea, but what are we supposed to do? Let just sit back and let a girl do all the fighting," Shikamaru replied. "He's sorry to drag you both into this, but we are a three-man squad, right?" Ino said with apprehension. Yes, it will happen as it is meant to, Shikamaru answered. I call this suicide. This isn't teamwork, Choji uttered as he made an attempt to get away. The sound ninja uttered without realizing what he had done. He better a live sheep than a dead lion, right Fatso? For a brief moment, there was silence as Shikamaru simply gave Choji a nervous glance. Did I get that right? What did that guy just say? To defuse the situation, Choji remarked, you wanna try saying that again? Yes, whatever happens, fatty, the sound ninja repeated. Choji yelled, WHO, are you calling fat? I am just a little chubby OOOKKKKK. Chubby's FOREVERRRRRR. Everyone started to perspire at that point, and Yukino was just staring, unable to comprehend what was happening. Behind him, Shikamaru asked Sakura, by the way, where's Naruto at? Shouldn't he be here with you? Ino and Choji, who hadn't noticed the blonde yet, were startled. Yukino and Sakura both tensed up at the question that was asked. For Ino and Choji, Sakura's lie that, we don't know where he is when we got ambushed, we got separated, seemed to work, but Shikamaru narrowed his eyes and ignored it for the time being. Team 10 used Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu, Ino's mind transfer jutsu, Choji's human boulder technique, and Choji's spirit to battle the sound ninja. When Ino had second thoughts about the female sound ninja kin, she attempted to threaten her life, but it was ineffective because they threatened to kill her if necessary. Holding Ino, Shikamaru sighed and said, oh man, what a drag. Yes, without a doubt, Choji said. Did you really think you could beat us? Face it, you ninja are just a bunch of hacks, Zaku replied. The other sound ninja remarked, from a second-rate village. They suddenly heard a voice in the trees above them. Huh, that's pretty tough talk, I guess that makes your village third-rate. I wonder if any of you amateurs are ready to take on the real thing. As everyone raised their heads, they saw Neji standing with his arms crossed and Tenten staring at Lee. Yukino thought, it's Lee's team, it's about time they got here. Neji activated his Byakugan and peered at everyone, saying, it looks like someone used our teammate as a punching bag. No one does that and gets away with it. Because of his bloodline limit, he was staring straight through them, which made everyone uncomfortable. Surprising himself, Neji turned off his Byakugan at that moment. This chakra, Neji pondered. Neji, what's wrong? Tenten asked him next to him. Well, are you going to stay up there all day or are you going to come down here and do something about it? Said the sound ninja. Neji said, actually, it looks like it'd been taken out of my hands, confusing everyone. Suddenly, they heard a menacing voice speaking from behind them. Yukino, Sakura and Yukino turned to face the voice and saw that Sasuke was awake, but there was something wrong with him. Happy to see Sasuke awake, Sakura said, Sasuke, you're awake. But her expression quickly changed to fear as she saw him, his Sharingan blazing to life and purple chakra surrounding him as he slowly raised himself up. Yukino, who was simply watching and was looking at her boyfriend with a terrified expression, was among those who were scared by this. With a menacing voice, Sasuke exclaimed, Sakura, Yukino, who did this to you? This time, he asked firmly, who was it? Sakura asked fearfully, Sasuke, what happened to you? Sasuke merely glanced at his hand before responding. Don't worry, it's alright, it's only the power flowing through me. In fact, I've never felt better. He gave me this gift and made me understand what I am. I'm an Avenger. To follow my path I must have power at any price, even if it means being consumed by evil. Sasuke replied. Once more, Sasuke said, Sakura, tell me which one of these people did this to you. Zaku exclaimed, that would be me. With the purple chakra still swirling around him and the marking on his face starting to take shape, Sasuke turned to face the sound ninja with a menacing expression. They nodded when Shikamaru said, Ino, Choji, come back over here. You don't want to get involved in this. Dosu, don't tell me you're getting cold feet, are you? Replied Zaku. Dosu exclaimed to his teammate, no Zaku, you don't understand. Watch this, supersonic slicing wave, I'm going to take care of them in one fell swoop, Zaku exclaimed. Yukino attempted to stand up but was unable to do so because of the earlier jutsu, she is limited to watching. Then, as the others braced themselves, a tremendous blast of air emerged from Zaku's hands, destroying everything in its path. After that attack, a figure with green eyes, who was unknown to the people there, turned to face them and began moving quickly in their direction. Neji sensed something, so he turned on his Byakugan once more and turned to face a specific direction. When Tenten saw his actions, he turned to face him and asked, what's wrong, Neji? Neji turned to face Tenten and turned off his Byakugan, stating, "We might have another visitor soon." Tenten was taken aback. "Hey!" Zaku exclaimed. "What do you know?" Blew them all away. "Not quite," Sasuke remarked as Zaku punched him in the direction of Dosu. Sasuke suddenly charged at Zaku. "Zaku, get in motion," Dosu yelled, but she was 2 minutes late. With his leg on Zaku's back, Sasuke moved around to take hold of his arms. With terror, Yukino and Sakura observed Sasuke grinning sinisterly at Zaku. "It appears that you take great pride in your arms. You have to be very attached to them," Sasuke growled, adding that the girls no longer even recognize him. Break. Yukino was standing still, but her eyes were wide with shock at what her boyfriend had done. Tears were welling up in Yukino's eyes as she thought, "No, why? Why are you acting like this?" Sasuke turned slowly to face Dosu, who was trembling from the Uchiha's stare. "I hope you can make things more interesting than your friend did, since it seems like you're the only one left," Sasuke remarked as he passed Sakura, who was appalled, and moved in Dosu's direction. He was about to approach Dosu. "Nah," Sakura screamed, dashed to Sasuke, and gave him a backward embrace. "Stop it," Sakura uttered, winking. Sakura shuddered as Sasuke cast a menacing glance in her direction, but she remained there, embracing him. Sakura pleaded, "Please stop." After giving her a brief moment of attention, Sasuke shoved her away from him and sent her to Yukino, who is shocked by what he has done and not just her. "Avoid obstructing me once more," giggling at Sakura and then Yukino, Sasuke said. "That also applies to you," Sasuke informed Yukino, who was taken aback by this. When Sasuke once more began to move in Dosu's direction. Step. Once more, a figure blocked his path, but this time, Sasuke was staring at the figure with wide eyes while everyone else was gasping in shock. Sasuke then addressed the figure with a smirk on his face. "Good to see you're not dead, Naruto. It seems something happened to you as well, same as me," said Sasuke. The others were taken aback by Naruto's arrival, but they were even more taken aback by how drastically he had changed from his previous persona. Yukino was relieved that Naruto was safe and well, but she was also worried about him. She attempted to stand up slowly because she was concerned that Sasuke might harm Naruto in the same way that he had Sakura because of his altered appearance and his current mental state. Not only was he as tall as Sasuke, but his hair had turned pitch black with a hint of red, and he was still wearing his jumpsuit, but the colors had changed. Naruto was simply staring at Sasuke with his now green eyes and barely showing any emotion, which alarmed his two female teammates into believing he was possessed. With his pants and sandals along with his ninja headband, the place that was once orange was now black, and the place that was once blue was now red. When Neji and Tenten examined Naruto from above in the tree, they noticed that he had changed greatly from their initial impression of him. Neji whispered, "Is this the same idiot from before?" Tenten chose not to respond, instead focusing on the large sword resting on Naruto's back. The sword was entirely black, with red edges. Its handle and guard had a distinctive design, with the black handle being red inside a circle surrounded by black spikes. Tenten, mesmerized by the sword, remarked, "That sword has a unique design. It's not like what the Anbu use. I wonder how he got it." When Neji turned on his Byakugan, he observed, or he was shocked by what he couldn't see. "What?" the startled man questioned. Tenten glanced at her teammate, perplexed, this time. "What's wrong?" "I'm blind," Neji said. Tenten questioned with greater confusion, "What do you mean can't see? Can't see what?" Still in shock, he responded, "His chakra. I can't see through him." Tenten was taken aback by this as Neji's Byakugan is meant to be able to see the chakra network through anyone and at a great distance. She said, "What? How is that possible?" as she peered at Naruto. Neji remarked, "I don't know, all I see is black coming from him," as Tenten turned to face him in confusion. "Black? Yeah. His whole figure is just black for me so I can't see through him, but..." Tenten questioned, "But what?" Neji remarked, "Something isn't right here." Returning to their motionless stares, Naruto and Sasuke created a powerful atmosphere that was felt by all in the vicinity. After they exchanged a brief look, Naruto turned to face his surroundings. He started by glancing at his two teammates, who were visibly bruised and hurt. Naruto's green eyes make Yukino and Sakura flinch. They don't know what happened to Naruto, but the way he looks at them makes them uneasy. He then turned to face some bushes where Team 10 was, and as soon as they came into contact with his gaze, they instantly stopped. Oh no, he found us. What do we do?" Shoji, anxious about Naruto, inquired. At this point, just remain calm, Shikamaru uttered. While Ino is a good sensor type and can sense the power Naruto was radiating, she stammered. How do you know? I have never seen a Naruto like this. What if he attacks us? Darkness. We have to keep calm. If we make a false move, then who knows what Naruto will do. We have to make sure he doesn't see us as a threat, said Shikamaru. Naruto simply continued to stare at them, intensifying their already intense gaze. To Team 10's relief, Naruto then turned to look at Neji and Tenten in the trees. Tenten and Neji stiffened as Naruto glanced at them, seemingly knowing where they had been since the beginning. Sasuke uttered the word, Naruto, to capture Naruto's interest. Naruto turned to face Sasuke, attracting his attention as they wait to find out what will happen next. Do you care to obstruct my path? Sasuke asked. Sasuke only needed to know that Naruto stood his ground and continued staring at him without saying anything. Sasuke bounded toward Naruto, saying, very well. If you intend to stand in my way, then you give me no other choice. Naruto was confronted by Sasuke, who attempted to kick him. However, Naruto deftly maneuvered to the side, surprising both Sasuke and the onlookers. Huh? Yukino was worried for Naruto and shocked that he avoided that fast-moving attack because she hadn't anticipated her boyfriend attacking one of his teammates for no apparent reason. When Sasuke attempted to land a few spin kicks, Naruto simply veered out of the way. Sasuke then attempted to punch, but Naruto stopped him by grabbing his shoulder. He then spun a kick to Sasuke's stomach, causing a tiny shockwave that sent him back to the sleeping tree before Sasuke could even process what had happened. Boom! The tree was destroyed when Sasuke struck it, creating a cloud of dust in the process. Naruto's strength also caught onlookers off guard. Because she knew Naruto better and had never seen him like this, Yukino was the most shocked. Naruto. How did things turn out for you? She thought as she nearly stood up, helped by Sakura. What power? Shoji exclaimed in shock as he tried to keep Shikamaru from flying away from the shockwave. Ino expressed shock, saying, Naruto's strength, it's almost unreal. Neji was staring at Naruto with an intense gaze. Hey, Neji, did that blonde show that kind of strength before? Tenten inquired. Neji responded, no, he didn't, attempting to make sense of the circumstances. The Uchiha's skill set doesn't surprise me, but where did that blonde idiot get the ability to do that? Has he been keeping it a secret all along? After racing out of the dust cloud, Sasuke launched himself at Naruto, but the latter kept evading or blocking his blows, which irritated him since he was unable to connect. Sasuke then vanished and reappeared behind Naruto in an attempt to surprise him, but it was in vain as Naruto kicked Sasuke in the back, causing him to roll onto the ground before stopping and standing up. Sasuke made the necessary hand gestures and exclaimed, very well then, take this. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. What? Exclaimed Sakura and Yukino, who couldn't believe Sasuke would consider using a jutsu on their teammate. Shikamaru cried out, he can't be serious. Oh no! Exclaimed Ino, worried for Naruto's security. Shoji, fearing the worst, cried out, I can't watch this, and put his hands in front of his eyes. When Sasuke used his fire technique, a huge ball of fire started to move toward Naruto. Yukino, horrified, tried to stop the fireball from hurting Naruto more than he already was and started to make hand gestures, but she fell because she wasn't holding on to Sakura. Naruto! Exclaimed Yukino. As the technique approached him, Naruto fixed his intense gaze on it, not even showing any signs of concern. Next, Naruto placed his hand on the sword's handle. Now what are you going to do? Neji contemplated. Slash. Then, without even flinching, the huge fireball split in two as it passed Naruto and exploded behind him. Everyone present was shocked to see Naruto holding the black and red sword that was resting on his back. When they had a closer look at the sword, it was really menacing. Whoa! Shoji exclaimed in shock. In shock, W. What just happened? Exclaimed Ino. H. He used that sword to cut through the fireball in just one swipe. Sigh. Man, what a drag today is, Shikamaru remarked, feeling relieved that Naruto was alright. Tenten. Neji. Said Neji uttered the simple words, he cut through Chakra. What? Tenten exclaimed in utter disbelief. Neji squinted at Naruto and exclaimed, that sword cut through Chakra like it was nothing. With narrowed eyes, Sasuke glanced at Naruto and then at the sword he was holding. He cut through my jutsu in one swing with that sword like it was nothing, Sasuke said. He contemplated. As everyone else was shocked by what had happened, Sakura and Yukino expressed gratitude that Naruto was okay. Yukino then gave her boyfriend a fierce look. "Sasuke, what the hell is wrong with you? You could have hurt Naruto," exclaimed Yukino, who had at last regained consciousness. After a brief moment of observing tears in Sakura's and Yukino's eyes, Naruto turned back to Sasuke, who was ignoring her. As the marking on his body continued to spread across his face, Sasuke simply grinned. "Sasuke, you seem like more than just a loser after all, because you seem to have a kunai in your pouch," he remarked. "This is starting to get my blood pumping." Sasuke was about to charge at Naruto when something stopped him, saying, "Stop it." When he turned to face Naruto, who had just been watching the scene involving his teammates, he saw Sakura and Yukino clinging to him and crying. "Please just stop. You two are teammates, you shouldn't be fighting like this," Sakura wept. "Will you please just stop?" Yukino said, turning to face her boyfriend. After hearing their words, Sasuke seemed to come to, as the markings on his body started to fade and reappear around his neck. He fell to the ground, groaning in agony, with Sakura and Yukino still holding onto him. Sasuke then turned to face Naruto and recalled what had transpired. Unlike Sasuke, Naruto didn't appear fatigued at all. He raised his sword, making the others cringe, but then relaxed as he placed it on his back. Naruto slowly turned to face the voice and exclaimed, "Hey, boy." Dosu then produced his team's Earth Scroll and said, "I purpose a deal. I give you the scroll and you let us go in peace." Yukino, Sakura, Sasuke, and Dosu all turned to face the Sound Ninja. "You and Sasuke are strong. Too strong, especially you. There's no way we can defeat you two at this moment." The fact that the Sound Ninja was only willing to give them the scroll and disadvantage his team for the second portion of the Chunin exams astounded Yukino, Sasuke, and Sakura. After that, Dosu threw the scroll at Naruto, who easily caught it and just stared at it. Dosu then went to gather up his fallen teammates. Dosu addressed Naruto, who was simply staring at the scroll and not even acknowledging what the Sound Ninja said, saying, "It would seem that we underestimated you, but we have all the information we need. And you, just because you saved me from your teammate doesn't mean that next time we're all buddies got that." Sakura glanced at Sasuke and noticed the mark on his neck as the other members of Team 7 watched the lone Sound Ninja carry his two fallen teammates away. Sakura called out, "Hey, wait," which caused Dosu to halt and turn around as well. Dosu exclaimed, irritated, "What is it now?" Sakura insisted, "Who is this Orochimaru and what does he want with Sasuke?" Next, Yukino turned to face Naruto, who was motionless and just staring at the Earth Scroll in his hand. She also questioned, did he do something to Naruto as well? This brought back memories for both Sakura and Sasuke of Orochimaru's blow to Naruto's stomach. Dosu turned around, saying nothing more, but his face was troubled as he and his fallen teammates vanished from sight. "I don't know what he wants with Sasuke, and certainly don't know what happened to him," Dosu said, glancing at Naruto, who hasn't moved from his position. "But it certainly wasn't because of Orochimaru. All I know is that we were meant to attack Sasuke and we did." After that, Sakura and Yukino turned to face Sasuke, who was looking at his trembling hand and worriedly asking, "What am I?" Sasuke looked at Naruto, who was still motionless, and said, "Naruto, what did you do back there?" with fear. As Sasuke recalled their brief altercation, he thought, if it wasn't Orochimaru, then where did Naruto get this kind of power? Could he have had that power all along? Yukino thought as she turned to face Naruto. Yukino became concerned when Naruto simply stood there, not moving at all, and she called out, "Naruto?" Without replying, Naruto threw the Earth Scroll to Yukino and turned to leave the bewildered genin there. When Yukino noticed this, she was alarmed and perplexed because he didn't seem to be acting like himself. "Naruto?" Trying to catch her friend's attention, she said softly. "What is the issue with Naruto?" With concern, Ino asked. Shikamaru answered, "I don't know, but she has the same question." Yukino ran towards Naruto and grabbed onto his jumpsuit, forcing him to stop, but Naruto ignored her and continued to walk away from them. "Where are you heading, Naruto? What's not right?" Yukino whispered. Naruto turned to face Yukino, his green eyes staring into her purple ones. Naruto isn't making an expression, which surprised Yukino, but the way he's staring at her makes it seem like he's saying, "You know what you did," and Yukino knew it because she started crying again. She was going to say, Naruto, I'm sore," when shuffle. Everyone there tensed up and assumed a fighting stance, but Naruto was unfazed. Neji maintained his composure and used his Byakugan to investigate what was going on. Shuffle. 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 What is it, Neji? Yet another adversary, Tenten inquired. Neji shook his head, perplexed by what he saw. Neji said, "You don't have to worry," but she seemed perplexed. "What are you trying to say?" "What's that?" Tenten inquired. "Observe for yourself," Neji said, glancing at the shrubs. Shuffle. The bushes shook for a short while before emerging as a white blur and landing in front of Naruto. The cat was white. The cat was staring at Naruto with its pink eyes while Naruto was staring at it with his green eyes. The cat had a small pink bow on its collar. Everyone exhaled when they saw the white cat, but they couldn't figure out why the cat was so far outside. "A feline? Why is it in this place?" Shikamaru uttered. "It's so cute, I don't know." As Ino spoke, her eyes shining, Shikamaru and Choji began to perspire at what their teammates had done. Sakura wondered why the cat was there, but she also agreed with Ino that it was cute. Then Naruto moved in the direction of the cat. "Wait for Naruto," Yukino uttered as she watched him approach the cat, unsure of his next move. Everyone watched in silence as Naruto kneeled in front of the cat and they simply stared at each other, not knowing what would happen next. The girls all blushed at the cat's cuteness when Naruto cocked his head and the animal did the same. The cat approached Naruto and raised its tiny paws in an apparent attempt to get him to pick it up. They continued to stare at each other, almost like they were in a staring competition, so Naruto also stretched out his arms and raised the cat in his arms. "What is wrong with these two?" Sasuke pondered. The cat then raised one of its paws to touch Naruto's forehead, and as it did so, a brilliant flash of light appeared, making everyone cover their eyes. When the bright light disappeared, they turned to face Naruto and were shocked to see that he had returned to normal. His hair had turned yellow once more, and he had also put on his orange and blue jumpsuit, much to Yukino's surprise and delight. Despite this, he was still taller and still carried the large black and red sword on his back. However, Yukino's joy was short-lived as Naruto began to stumble backward. Concerned, Yukino cried out, "Naruto!" and dashed to catch him before he could fall to the ground still holding the cat. As Yukino put her head to Naruto's chest in an attempt to hear a heartbeat, which she did and exhaled with relief, a Team 10 rushed over. They nodded in response to Yukino's, "He's okay, he's just sleeping," statement. "Thank God," Ino exclaimed, feeling relieved that her fellow blonde was alright. Choji questioned, "Did the cat do something?" as everyone gazed at the white cat soundly dozing in Naruto's arms. Shikamaru remarked, "I think so, but whatever happened, it changed Naruto back." Yukino caressed Naruto's hair and carefully places him on her lap. "I'm so glad you're okay, Naruto," she thought. The mindscape of Naruto. When Naruto opened his eyes and realized where he was beginning to wake up. He was in an area that appeared to be devoid of life. The sky was obscured by clouds, allowing only a small amount of light to enter from above. He could also make out some distant mountains, and all he was walking on was dirt. Confused, Naruto asked, "Where am I?" Naruto heard a call from behind while he continued to survey his surroundings. Naruto Uzumaki. When Naruto turned around to see who had called him, he saw. Declaring in shock, "It's you," Naruto recognized the figure as the one he had seen earlier in the shadowy emptiness. "We have much to discuss," the mindscape of Naruto. "What do you mean?" Confused, Naruto inquired. After his battle with Sasuke and his meeting with a cute white cat, Naruto was now back in his head. Naruto now faced the previous black-haired person face to face. "Also, who are you?" "As I said, we have much to discuss." The figure gave Naruto no response at all, turning to move away while indicating that he should be followed. "Okay." Despite his uncertainty, Naruto followed. After walking for a while without seeing any changes in their surroundings or hearing anything from the black-haired person, Naruto made the decision to break the ice. So, what did you want to talk about?" Naruto inquired. "We're almost there," the individual answered. Then, Naruto turned to face his surroundings once more and saw the same thing. "What are you trying to say?" "We continue to be." Naruto spoke, but the enormous castle in the distance interrupted him. "Whoa!" Naruto expressed surprise. "We're going to talk there," the individual said excitedly. "Oh, okay," Naruto said, still in disbelief. The person seized Naruto's hand. "Hi. How are you doing?" Naruto started to say something, but the figure interrupted. "We're going to fly there," the startled person uttered. The Naruto. Flap. Naruto recognized the black haired person from their initial encounter. Black and red feathered wings emerged from their back. What? Whoa! Naruto spoke, but he was taken aback when two unexpected black leather wings suddenly appeared out of his back. The person with black hair began to lift himself off the ground and into the air. Hold on. I have no idea how to fly, Naruto screamed. After giving Naruto a brief glance, the person responded. Use the muscles in your back to spring up in the air and then let your wings glide through the wind, said the individual. When Naruto attempted to follow the person's instructions, his own pair of wings began to twitch and spread out, but soon became tired. When the person with the black hair noticed this, he bent down and approached Naruto from behind, placing his hand on his back to assist him. Try focusing on the spot I have my hand on and try again, said he. With a nod, Naruto then he gave it another go, concentrating on the location of the person's hand. This time, however, the outcome was different as Naruto's black wings twitched and spread out once more, but this time they started to flap. Good, you're starting to get the hang of it, this time try again but more harder, the individual clarified. With a nod, Naruto exhaled and tried again, trying harder than before, his wings twitching and spreading out as he flailed. Naruto began to gently rise off the ground, and the person, who was observing Naruto, grinned slightly. The person started to lift off the ground again and said, "Okay, now get used to stay in the air until you start to feel it get easier." Did you have to do this as well? While attempting to stay airborne, Naruto questioned. Yes, at the time I had to teach myself, he answered. With a nod, Naruto, you didn't have a sensei to teach you? Naruto inquired. The other said, I had a teacher, but he didn't teach me how to fly. Why not? The person said, well, it's because he didn't know I had wings. I mean, I didn't either until at a certain moment, and then frowned in memory as they looked down. It was silent for a while before Naruto broke it after realizing this and feeling horrible about it. I apologize, he said. The individual shook his head. It's okay, don't worry about it, the individual answered. Naruto nodded, feeling his breathing return to normal as he began to notice that the hovering was becoming easier. You're doing good, try moving around so you can adjust to it. Naruto nodded and began to linger, gradually grasping the situation. The observer nodded as they watched Naruto. The person said to Naruto, okay, let's go, as he started to fly in the direction of the castle. With a nod, Naruto also took off for the castle. Skipping time. When Naruto and the person with the black hair arrived at the castle's gates, he could clearly see that the castle was surrounded by a small village and was colored in shades of black and purple. Naruto took a brief glance around the village. Are there any people living here? Naruto inquired. The person with black hair glanced at Naruto, who was observing the village with awe. No, remember this is your mind. I only created this place so that we can talk with no distractions, replied the individual. Oh, right, Naruto uttered. Then the person with the black hair touched the castle gate and pushed it open, allowing them to enter. Naruto nodded in response to the person's, follow me, statement. After entering the castle through the foyer area, where there were stairs leading to the second floor, Naruto was left speechless. They continued through the hallways until they came to a door, which they opened to reveal a living room with two red couches facing one another. The person with black hair and Naruto sat facing each other and made themselves comfortable. Naruto nodded while wearing a serious expression. Okay, let's get started, the person said. First, I am pretty sure you have some questions, don't you? That individual said to Naruto. Naruto spoke while nodding. Who are you? Naruto inquired. The person said, you can call me whatever you want. A lot of people did anyway. Naruto scowled at that. You don't have a name? Naruto inquired. The individual simply shook his head, so Naruto assumed a contemplative stance and considered what to name him. Kirin. In a whisper, Naruto. What? How about Kirin? Naruto inquired. The individual cast a thoughtful glance down at his new name. For him, Naruto reasoned that it wasn't the first time he'd been called a different name. Many had called him either boy or Kita, but that was about it. A few seconds later, he spoke. Kirin broke the awkward silence that had been between Naruto and him as they stared at each other. Cough. So, do you have any other questions? Kirin inquired. Thank heavens. Naruto ignored their awkward moment a few seconds ago and asked another question. You said this was my mind, right? Kirin acknowledged as Naruto asked. So tell me, how did you create this place? Why did you make it this way, too? Regarding your first query, you could say that I built this place in your head because we are sort of linked. I will address your second query in a moment. Is there anything more? Kirin answered. When Naruto awoke and remembered what had happened in the void, he was unaware of the power he had, so he questioned. I have 2 more questions. That power I used when I fought my teammate, that was yours, right? What exactly was that power? Naruto was curious. On the first one, you were partially accurate, Kirin said, perplexing Naruto. That power you used was the power of darkness, and it wasn't just mine but it was yours as well, and I'm going to explain what the darkness is as well in a little bit. What's your last question? Kirin clarified. Naruto was taken aback by this realization. He had no idea he possessed such a power within him. However, he put off worrying about this power of darkness because Kirin would give more details in a moment. When we were in the void, you were looking at someone. It was a girl with silver blue hair and she had unusual clothing on, the same as you. But, she also had white feathered wings. Who was she? Naruto inquired. Kirin was lost in thought, but there was a hint of longing in his eyes. As he noticed this, Naruto opened his mouth to apologize, but Kirin interrupted him with a sigh. I was planning to tell you after your questions, but since you asked that question, now's a good time. First, the girl that you saw, her name was Iris, and she is my beloved, Kirin said with a tearful grin. Naruto was taken aback by this. Kirin said, I'll tell you more in a little while, but in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a story first, as he used some black energy to manifest a book. After nodding and settling in, Naruto suddenly realized something. Hold on. What is the length of this story? Since I still need to finish my exam, a worried Naruto said. You don't have to worry, I made it to where time works differently here in your mind. An hour here is like 10 minutes outside of your mindscape. After Kirin clarified, Naruto became more at ease. Alright, so, long ago, before the shinobi era, there were 2 kingdoms. One attempted to subjugate the other while the other attempted to maintain harmony between them. The Kingdom of White endeavored to maintain harmony, while the Kingdom of Black attempted to subdue them. The Kingdom of White and the Kingdom of Black were polar opposites to each other. The Kingdom of White specialized in light while the Kingdom of Black specialized in dark. Both kingdoms were protected by their respective governors. For the Kingdom of White, they were under the protection of the Queen of Light, and for the Kingdom of Black, they were governed by the King of Darkness. Over the clouds, the Kingdom of Black lived in the mud of the surface and the Kingdom of White lived on a floating island in the sky. As a result, the clouds blocked out the sun's light, preventing the Kingdom of Black from harvesting food or enjoying any of the natural landscape's features, such as grass or trees. Instead, all they had to survive on was dead trees, mud, and dirty water that they had to fertilize. It didn't get any better because the black people were attacked by monsters who made them angry at the white people for what they had up there. So the Kingdom of Black wanted to wage war on the Kingdom of White, and so they did. The battle was endless. A lot of people lost their lives due to this silly war. It got out of hand because the King of Darkness made civilians put on armor and go fight. Another old folktale centers on 2 characters. The Black Prince of Darkness, symbolized by the Black Cat, and the White Maiden of the Sky, represented by the White Cat. The Black King of Darkness led the demons in their attack on the Skylands during the concurrent battle between the Guardians of Light and the demons. But the Black Prince disobeyed the Black King's orders and fell in love with the White Maiden, hoping that their union would put an end to the war. Since the war devastated the earth and the skies, it was not meant for them to meet and fall in love. Naruto was fascinated by the story Kirin was telling and found it fascinating, but he couldn't shake the feeling of copyright Yavu whenever Kirin was narrating the tale. Not only that, but he also felt as though Kirin was referring to himself and this Iris person whenever he was telling the tale of the Prince of Darkness and the White Maiden. But then on a faithful day, that's as when the war has finally ended. At that, Kirin nodded and Naruto focused all of his attention on it. But not as you expect, not all endings have a happy ending, Kirin remarked, but Naruto saw the sorrow and regret on his face this time. The Queen of Light saw the deaths and destruction that the war has caused and thought now is enough, so she went to the center of the island where a huge tower was to end this. At a different place, the Prince of Darkness had just left the trap that the King of Darkness has made for him because he didn't want the Dark Prince to interfere with his fight against the Queen of Light because he has defied his orders. The Dark Prince hurried to find the Queen of Light, but by the time he reached the island's center, where the tower stood, the island had already begun to crumble and fall, causing the island to plummet to the earth. Apparently, the Queen of Light used her remaining strength to seal the King of Darkness away. As a result of the lack of power, the island was unable to support itself. The Dark Prince hurried to the top of the tower, where she saw him for the last time. When they locked eyes, the Queen of Light displayed shock, but it quickly turned to regret as she apologized to him for betraying their promise. Then, the building collapsed, causing the rest of the island to collapse as well, and both the Dark Prince and the Queen of Light to fall. The Dark Prince attempted to save the Queen of Light by desperately reaching out to grasp her hand, but she vanished into the building's debris, and the Dark Prince ended both of their lives. Meanwhile, the island has now crashed on the surface of the Earth, disbanding the clouds as the Earth finally had sunlight being brought down upon it. Due to this, the war was finally over between light and darkness, but at a price two individuals have made so that there can be peace for the world, Kirin said as he closed the book and signaled the conclusion of the narrative. Naruto was taken aback by the lengthy tale's conclusion. While it was true that the war had ended, he was also disappointed about the cost of the Dark Prince and the Queen of Light's separation and failure to keep their promise to one another. It makes sense that when Kaisen turned to face Naruto, he was taken aback. "Now, do you have any questions?" Kaisen queried. Breaking free from his reverie, Naruto nodded. "What's the point of telling me this? I mean, when you were telling the story, when you read about the Dark Prince and the Queen of Light, it sounded like you were talking about yourself and this Iris person?" Naruto inquired. Kirin gave Naruto a long look before speaking. "Naruto, let me ask you this. What if I told you that this story, this legend, really happened? What if I told you that this story was based off of real events that happened?" Kirin spoke to Naruto, who gave him a brief moment of attention before his eyes expand. "Hold on. Are you stating that, hold on?" When Naruto inquired, Kirin simply nodded. "Yes, it's true, all of it. I am the Dark Prince. Or I should be saying former Dark Prince." Naruto was shocked to learn that a legend about two characters he was unaware of, a story about two kingdoms before the shinobi era, and that it was based on a true story. The best part of the story was that Naruto was currently facing one of the figures, though he wasn't sure what Kirin had said. Naruto exclaimed, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" Naruto nodded as Kirin said, "Naruto, I'm not alive anymore. I'm just a spirit that has resided within you." "So, who is the Dark Prince now?" Kirin merely gazed at Naruto. Kirin tilted his head slightly and asked, "Isn't it obvious?" Naruto looked perplexed. Pointing at Naruto, who was shocked and then looked down in thought, Kirin said gravely, "You are now the Dark Prince, which means you have a big responsibility now." After considering what he had been told, Naruto was at a loss for ideas. Now that he was this Dark Prince, he was considering what he had been told to explain the nature of that previous power. However, he wasn't sure if he was the appropriate person to give that kind of authority or responsibility to. I don't know how I feel about all this," he replied. "I understand, at first I was nervous as well. But I powered through, because someone trusted me to bring peace to both the Kingdom of White and Black, because at the time that person didn't agree with the King of Darkness that wanted to overthrow the Kingdom of White. He only wanted peace so that no one can perish again," said Kirin. "Whatever happened to him?" inquired Naruto. "He died. He wanted to find someone who could be next King of Darkness, who could actually bring peace. He met me. He saw that I was done with how the King of Darkness was treating his people, and so he challenged me to a sword fight to see if I was worthy. When I defeated him, he was down to his last breath, and so he told me that in order to achieve peace I have to take the throne from the current King of Darkness, and that's what I did. I trained with my teacher in what I needed to know in order to be the King of Darkness. He told me that a king isn't just powerful but is also knowledgeable." Kirin clarified as Naruto was simply listening. He smiled lovingly and said, "At some point I met Iris. My beloved. She was also the Queen of Light." "I knew it," Naruto mused. "After I saw her for the first time, you should know. I fell in love with her right then and there." Naruto realized, it was love at first sight. Kirin gave a nod. "Yeah, after that I had another reason to strive for peace. I thought that if we were together that it will end the war between our two kingdoms," said Kirin. As Naruto concluded, Kirin nodded once more, "But it didn't go as well as you have hoped. In the end, you got what you wanted. But at the cost of both of your lives." "Yes, but in this era, peace has yet to be achieved, and it doesn't help that there is still some darkness left in the world. That's why I wanted you to achieve peace so that there won't be countless wars going on," Kirin said. Naruto lowered his gaze. "Why him? Why did they pick him for this part? Is he really capable of this?" Naruto questioned, "What makes you think I can do this?" Kirin asked, "You remind me of myself when I was young. Tell me, this Yukino girl, who is she?" After giving Naruto a brief glance. When Kirin mentioned her name, Naruto winced. How had he ever known it? His hair veiled his eyes and his head hung low, yet he said nothing less. "She's my childhood friend," uttered Naruto, and Kirin nodded and hummed. "Tell me, you still care about her, right? Despite what happened in the forest," Kirin said, but it wasn't really a question but rather a declaration. Cinching his fist, Naruto asked himself if he could really forgive Yukino, or even his team. No, he couldn't because what they did still hurts and he can't let go of it, but he would still care about Yukino and protect her in spite of his inability to forgive. He sighed and slowly nodded before speaking. It doesn't mean I don't care for Yukino, I still do, despite what they did, he said, and Kirin nodded slightly, but he could tell there was more to it than that. Kirin made Naruto blush with his other remark, suggesting that he saw right through him. You're a good young man, Naruto. But remember, there are many people out there. One day you're going to find someone and cherish them like I do Iris, Kirin said. With a persistent flush, Naruto picked at the back of his head. So what do you say? As the new Dark Prince, will you help me achieve peace once again? After a brief moment of downward gaze, Naruto nodded his head. Okay, let's get started, Naruto firmly stated, causing Kirin to smile. Good, now we have to discuss some other matters in your training, Kirin replied. Other matters? I get about the training part, but what else is there? Naruto responded. Kirin stated bluntly, I have to tell you about the changes your body is going through. Not at all like that, Kirin exclaimed. Oh, okay, sighed Naruto. Now as I said, I have to tell you about the changes your body went through when you first awakened to your power. Naruto nodded and focused intently. But first, the power you have is the same as mine. Darkness or dark energy, however you want to put it. Now listen carefully, dark energy is extremely dangerous, it's destructive, unpredictable, and sometimes unstable. The energy can possess damaging effects on the user's body and their sanity if they have poor control over it. Trust me, I've seen that before and I don't want you to go through that. Now accidental release of negative energy may occur. It focused purely on outwards and destructive. Kirin clarified, but this caused Naruto to have a facial expression. As soon as Kirin saw this, he clarified. Naruto nodded and relaxed as Kirin said, you don't have to worry, since I'm going to be your teacher when it comes to these things, you will learn how to control it. Now then you can create, shape and manipulate dark energy. To draw out that power, it is usually drawn from deep within your soul and into your body. It can be channeled to a variety of effects as an absence of light, a solid, gaseous or liquid substance. Basically it can be manifested in various ways. Kirin went on to explain that Naruto was thinking. When you say manifest, I could create anything as long as I have a clear visual picture of what I want to create, is that right? Naruto replied as he pointed toward himself. That's right, as long as you have a specific picture of what you want to create it will appear, Kirin said. Kaisen then reached out to the side, startling Naruto with the appearance of a black and red portal. A massive black and red sword then emerged from the portal, which Naruto recognized as the same weapon he had used in his battle with Sasuke. This sword is unique since it can cut or reflect any jutsu, isn't that what you call it? Kirin inquired, and Naruto nodded for him to go on. This sword is called the Sword of Darkness. It's what I was given when I was titled the Dark Prince. Okay, right now I want you to make a ball of dark energy to get you started, said Kirin. With a nod, Naruto said, I know Kirin said I can tap into it from my soul, but how am I supposed to do that? The energy is meant to spread throughout his body. He contemplated. Then, Naruto raised his hands to give the impression that he was holding something and began to focus. That was all that Kirin and Naruto saw happen, as small black sparks would occasionally appear and vanish. Try again, but this time don't force it out, concentrate more into your mind until you feel your dark energy and guide it through into your body, Kirin advised. Once more nodding, Naruto closed his eyes and focused harder. Kirin was pondering something as she stared at Naruto's stomach during this time. He thought, we need to talk to him later when that seal is off. As this was going on, Naruto was still focused. This was challenging for him because he had never meditated before, but he sensed something, that is, he was approaching the Sorsa, and he unconsciously raised his hands to the dark power that was starting to flow through his body. I believe I have it, he said. Kirin inquired, good, how does it feel? Naruto was unsure of how to feel at the moment. He had anticipated feeling scared upon encountering the dark power, but to his surprise, he felt welcomed as the dark energy coursed through his body. Naruto remarked, it feels welcoming, Kirin said, okay, keep going, and Naruto nodded. As Kirin grinned at Naruto's advancement and spoke up, he started to sense the dark power leaving him. Kirin addressed Naruto, saying, okay, now imagine the dark energy is going out through your hands. Following Kirin's advice, Naruto tried to visualize it passing through his hands. Spark. Spark. Naruto opened his eyes to see that the sparks are happening again as he started to try harder, and Kirin noticed that the black sparks from before are happening more frequently. Subsequently, a tiny ball of dark energy materialized in the middle of Naruto's hand. Kirin noticed this and nodded. Although he thought it should have been a little bit larger, Naruto felt content because he was beginning to grow weary of focusing. However, he was happy that he had made some progress even though it wasn't much. Excellent work, we'll address that later to help you recover. Let's move on to the modifications in your body, Kirin remarked, and Naruto focused entirely on him. Kirin spoke to Naruto, who sheepishly scratched the back of his head. First, your stamina has increased along with your strength and you're more durable than before. Next, you have grown in height. Well, actually this is supposed to be your original height, but due to how you kept eating those ramen noodle cups you couldn't grow properly. Kirin was asked awkwardly by Naruto, how do you even know that? Quite simply, I saw your memories, he said. Hey, that's a privacy invasion, Naruto yelled indignantly. It's not like I did it on purpose. I saw flashes of what happened throughout your life up to when you went unconscious in the Forest of Death. That's also how I know about Yukino. Kirin clarified, and now Naruto understands. He said, oh, I was wondering how you knew about Yukino, and Kirin gave him a nod. Alright, let's continue. Next is you have immense amount of dark energy and again you need training in order to use it. Also you have developed some muscles for your body, said he. Death Forest. A small river was paused where Yukino and the other members of Team 7 were standing in the open. And, surprisingly, they were accompanied by Team 10, who invited them to accompany them. They accepted, at least Yukino and Sakura did. Sasuke didn't really care, but he was cautious around them because they were down to one scroll. Okay, this is a good place to rest. I think the boys should go get some food, while I will see if Naruto has any injuries on him, said Yukino. Yukino nodded in appreciation as Ino said, I'll help you with that. Choji lamented, aw man, I'm used to people giving me food though. Oh, stop complaining. Sakura and Yukino were the ones doing the most work before we showed up, so they need to rest and Ino needs to recover as well, said Shikamaru. Sasuke uttered, whatever, as he left the group. Shikamaru sighed and said, man, what a drag, come on Choji. Okay, and with that, they both began to go after Sasuke to buy food. Sakura turned to face Sasuke as he turned to leave. She was devastated by Sasuke's physical push away from her after what had happened in the forest, even though she had tried to talk him out of it. Although it didn't hurt, Yukino was still upset that Sasuke had used a jutsu on Naruto. Seeing Sasuke act indifferently toward his teammate when he used a jutsu on him made her wonder if Sasuke even considered Naruto to be a friend or even a teammate. After witnessing how Sasuke and Naruto treated each other at the academy, Yukino had hoped that since they were teammates, they would become friends. However, this didn't work out, so when Sasuke attacked Naruto, it didn't sit well with her. Whether it was a curse mark or not, he had no justification for what he did, and she wouldn't forgive him because she wasn't getting any better. Yukino cherishes her friendship with Naruto, and the thought of having abandoned him in the forest still makes her feel terrible. She was afraid when she saw how emotionless Naruto was when they were back in the forest. She knew that she was the cause of this change in Naruto, but she prayed to Kami that he would still be her friend and hoped that he would forgive her. Yukino turned to face Naruto, who was lying next to a tree with the white cat still asleep on his thighs. Despite their attempts to wake him, Naruto remained unconscious. They struggled to move him while the large black and red sword was on his back, and they couldn't figure out how he was able to carry such a heavy weapon. Nevertheless, she hoped he would wake up soon, observing that he had grown taller. Ino, do you have any medical supplies with you? Replied she. Yeah, I have some, Aldo, it's just some bandages if that would help, Ino replied. Don't worry, Yukino said, it will. Sakura said, would you like some help with Naruto? The two girls halted and cast puzzled glances at Sakura. Yukino was particularly perplexed because Sakura had never attempted to assist Naruto in any way well, not until they had learned how to walk a tree in Wave Country, where she had given him advice. Okay, Yukino said, not sure how to react, and Ino simply nodded. Okay, let's get started. A wave of power severed Yukino, and a black and red portal materialized beneath the sword next to Naruto. The three girls were startled to find themselves immobile as the portal engulfed the sword and eventually vanished entirely, as if it had never existed. After a brief period of silence as the girls tried to comprehend what had just happened, Ino spoke up. She stammered and said, do you think Naruto is going to get mad we lost his sword? Well, we can just tell him what happened, right? Replied Sakura. You think he'll believe a portal just stole his sword? Ino asked. Hopefully so, I don't want him to be angry with us, Yukino said as she and the other two girls moved in Naruto's direction. Yukino gently picked up the cat and moved it away from Naruto to the side of him before saying, "Okay, we have to take off his jacket, but we got to move the cat first." "There you go," she said, giving the cat a gentle pat. Sakura watched as Yukino unzipped Naruto's orange and blue jacket and began removing it from him with Ino's assistance. Whoa! Sakura and Yukino were both drawn to Ino, asking, "What's wrong?" Sakura was confused by Ino's blushing statement. "I didn't know Naruto worked out, his forearms are so muscular." But Yukino's eyes twitched as she realized that Ino was essentially texting her friend's arms, asking, "Why am I acting like this?" She pondered. Sakura inquired, "Yukino, did Naruto ever work out?" "Not that I'm aware of," Yukino answered, her eyes twitching as she continued to observe Ino touching Naruto's arms. Surprising the two, Ino said, "You girls should feel them too." What? Yes, you ought to experience it too, Ino remarked, surprising Sakura by grabbing her arm. When Sakura started to feel Naruto's forearms, she was taken aback to discover that they felt like rocks. Sakura exclaimed, "Whoa, it's like I'm touching a hard rock," which caused Yukino's eyes to twitch more than they had previously. "Yes, it feels like I'm touching hard steel," Ino began, but Yukino interrupted. "We're going off course here," she exclaimed, annoyed. "What's wrong? We're only feeling his arms," replied Ino. Yukino said, "That's not the point, we're trying to see if he's injured, not feeling him up," but her final statement caused the two girls and herself to blush. "Why did you say it like that?" Sakura exclaimed, flushed to the cheeks. Still blushing, Yukino answered, "I didn't know how else to put it." "Well, why don't you have a feel for yourself?" Ino replied. Though Naruto's forearms were muscular, they were still well toned to blend in with his overall appearance, which suited him. Yukino, still blushing, turned to Ino, then to Naruto, who was still sleeping. I don't know." "Oh come on, it's just a feel, besides he's sleeping, he won't even know," Ino replied. "That isn't the main idea here. I don't know how to feel right now," Yukino thought. She had always been a shy girl until meeting Naruto, who helped her overcome her shyness, for which she is grateful. Though Naruto always asked her permission before hugging her because he knew she was still somewhat shy, her shyness has returned and she is considering touching him against her better judgment because she is curious to feel what it feels like. They nodded as Yukino firmly said, "Fine, but you two better not say anything to the boys, especially Sasuke." After taking hold of Naruto's arm, Yukino felt his forearms and examined them for a while. She moved her hands, feeling around Naruto's forearms, thinking, "It really does feel like hard rock or more like hard metal for a kunai or shuriken. How did Naruto get it like this?" as Sakura and Ino looked on. After a few minutes, Yukino was still feeling Naruto's arms lost in a stare. Ino and Sakura turned to face each other, their expressions bewildered, and they both turned to face Yukino again. Sakura asked, attempting to catch the white-haired girl's attention, Yukino?" But it was unsuccessful. "Yukino!" Ino exclaimed loudly, causing Yukino to flinch before turning to face her. "You okay? You were touching for too long," said Ino. After blinking once and twice, Yukino realized what she had just done and blushed intensely. She stammered, Oh, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought." "It's okay," Ino stumbled to say as Sakura just stared, unsure of what to do. Now, for a few minutes, the atmosphere was awkward until Sakura broke it. She said, "Should we continue?" To which Yukino and Ino nodded inadvertently. Yukino said, "Okay, Sai, let's not get sidetracked anymore," and they nodded. "Let's see if he has any injuries on his arms," Yukino said, faltering a little in the final sentence. The three girls, trying not to look at him or feel him, started examining Naruto's arms. Sakura nodded as Ino remarked, "There are no injuries here." "Same here," Yukino answered. Next, Yukino examined the area of Naruto's stomach where Orochimaru had injured him. "Could you help me lift his shirt?" Yukino asked Ino, who nodded. Unexpectedly, the two started to raise his shirt. The three girls' faces instantly turned a deep crimson red, and smoke was shooting out of their ears. The reason for this was that, despite his advanced age, Naruto had six-pack abs that were toned to fit his body. The girls stared at Naruto's body in shock, not even registering the seal that had appeared on it, but he was otherwise unharmed. At that moment, Yukino and Ino gently let go of Sakura's shirt, allowing it to fall to conceal his stomach, as Sakura passed out. With her face still red, Yukino spoke up after the two girls exchanged glances. She said slowly, "We're not going to talk about this, right?" And Ino just gave her a sheepish nod. "Talk about what?" A sluggish voice behind them asked. The boys must have returned with some fish for the girls to eat because the three girls turned their necks so quickly that they may have heard a cracking sound. Nothing at all. It's none of your business. Shikamaru put up his hands in defense, saying, Okay. Geese wasn't trying to pry or anything, as Choji and Sasuke stared in confusion. Choji inquired, What's wrong with Sakura? In an attempt to appear naive, Ino asked, She's just tired, right Yukino? And Yukino simply nodded without responding. Sasuke glanced at his girlfriend, but her head was lowered, obscuring her face. He then turned to face the unconscious Sakura, who was lying face down on the ground with smoke streaming from her ears, and turned back to Yukino. Shaking his shoulders, he then moved to take a seat. I had no idea Naruto was so muscular, Yukino thought as she covered up her flushed face in an attempt to calm herself. Within Naruto's mind, Naruto asked Kirin, Is it that big of a deal? Naruto nodded as Kirin explained, Well, it does benefit you so that you have extra time to train instead of training your body. It also does something else, sigh. If only you seen what I just saw a moment ago, he thought to himself. Naruto inquired, Is there anything else to know? Yeah, there is. The seal that the grass ninja put on your stomach is messing with your chakra control, so once you get to the tower ask to see that Hokage to see if he can remove the seal for you. Okay, I'll do that. Naruto flinched but had a puzzled expression as Kirin said, It's also messing with your connection with the Nine Tails. At some point we're going to talk to him about this as well and possibly make a deal with him. Hold on. Why would we offer the fox a deal? Naruto inquired. He will be essential for your shinobi training, while I am training you in dark energy, sword fighting and other stuff for the future. He will train you in the shinobi arts. That way it will be faster for you to get stronger. Kirin clarified, but Naruto was unsure. He questioned, What if he doesn't agree to it? Kirin answered, I have my ways of persuading him so you don't have to worry, and Naruto nodded. He said, Well, okay, if you say so, and Kirin got to his feet. Kirin extended his hand for Naruto to shake and said, Another thing, as of this day forward we are now partners, so it will be a pleasure to work with you. Rising to his feet, Naruto shook Kirin's hand. It will be enjoyable to collaborate with you, partner. Kirin nodded in agreement with Naruto's smile. Naruto was startled to see that his hand was starting to disappear. What is going on? He uttered, appearing concerned. Don't worry, you're just waking up, Kirin answered, calming Naruto and causing him to exhale with relief. Oh, I was worried for a second, said he. Before you go, that white cat that you encountered in the forest. Yes, indeed. How about it? Naruto stated, his body is nearly gone. Kirin said, I'll explain more when you wake up. Just wanted to let you know that you can trust her. Naruto simply nodded. Prior to Naruto disappearing, Kirin spoke once more. Kirin hurriedly added, By the way, her name is Chakra. All right. Goodbye. With a slight wave, Naruto spoke before completely disappearing. Now alone in the room, Kirin sighed and went to sit by the window. He closed his eyes for a little while before opening them to look up at the clouds in the sky, which hardly revealed any light coming down. Then, he had a flashback of Iris grinning warmly at him, which made him smile too. I hope you're doing okay and I'll see you soon. My love. Sitting next to a small fire that partially illuminated the night were teams 7 and 10. Since he is the only one among them capable of using a fire jutsu, Sasuke created them specifically for them. After finishing their meal, they were just sitting there to kill time or wait for Naruto to wake up. Without him, they can't go anywhere. Well, Team 10 can, but they chose to go with Team 7. Sasuke was starting to become irritated since Naruto hadn't woken up yet and it was getting close to nightfall. Shikamaru observed Naruto and remarked, Naruto sure seems to sleep a lot, almost like he hasn't slept at all. Naruto had some bags under his eyes. That remark made Yukino and Sakura wince, and Shikamaru noticed, narrowing his eyes. Looking at her fellow blonde with concern, Ino said, Well, it's Naruto we're talking about. He attends to sleep alongside you in the academy sometimes, remember, but, you're right, he never sleeps for this long before. When Yukino's eyes narrowed and Sasuke finally had enough of waiting, he exclaimed, Ow! When is this dope going to wake up? Yukino, growing irritated and worn out with her boyfriend's attitude, said, Stop complaining. Besides, me and Sakura are still tired for keeping watch all day while you slept. When Sakura noticed that Sasuke was about to respond with an argument, she intervened and tried to calm her two teammates by suggesting that they set up camp for the night so that they could recuperate and wake up early the next day. TCH. Whatever, Sasuke exclaimed. ending the discussion and turning to lie on his side to sleep. Everyone simply turned to face the fire after glancing at him. There was another period of quiet, and the only sound you could hear was the wood near the fire crackling. Abruptly, Choji questioned, "Hey, why wasn't Naruto with you when you were fighting those sound ninja?" The question made Yukino and Sakura cringe. Shikamaru narrowed his eyes, and Ino wondered the same thing before recalling what Sakura had said. Ino said, glancing first at Naruto's sleeping form and then back at Yukino and Sakura. "Oh yeah, you said that you got separated when you were ambushed, but by all the sounds the fight made he should have heard it and came right away, instead of coming at the end." Well, Sakura started to say, but Yukino interrupted her. "We were ambushed by another team prior to the sound ninja attack, which is when we got separated from each other," she falsely claimed in an attempt to bring the discussion to a close. Sakura changed the topic and caused Shikamaru to narrow his eyes even more. "What were you guys doing before when you showed up to help us?" Sakura asked. Surprising the two girls, Choji answered, "Oh well, we were actually on our way to the tower because we managed to find the other scroll we need." "Wow. Good for you, but why didn't you just go to the tower instead of coming with us?" replied Sakura. "Yeah, you could have secured your spot for the next exams," Yukino replied. "I simply believed that going together would be beneficial and we could support one another in the event of an ambush," Ino said, to which Shikamaru and Choji nodded in agreement. When Shikamaru looked up at the sky, she saw that night had already fallen. "We should get to sleep now or we won't wake up on time in the morning," said he. The others seemed to have forgotten that it was getting late when they looked up at the sky and saw darkness. Yukino stretched and said, "Yeah, you're right. You guys can go to sleep now, I'll put the fire out," as the others nodded and she went to get some water. As Yukino was about to turn in for the night, she noticed Ino dozing off next to Naruto, her head resting on his shoulder. She quickly got the water and put out the fire, but not before setting traps in case they ran into another team. She felt a queasy sensation in her stomach that she couldn't quite place, but it made her eyes twitch and narrow at the blonde woman. She also inadvertently balled her fists together. Yukino approached them. She sat down next to Naruto after seeing the two blondes together and realizing she was too exhausted to do anything more. She glanced at him, put her hand to his hair, and ruffled it a little before stopping. "I hope you wake up soon, Naruto," she thought to herself before resting her head on his shoulder and drifting off to sleep. Time jump. The midnight hour, come. Everyone was still asleep when Naruto made a tiny sound and opened his eyes slightly to realize it was nighttime in the middle of the night. Then he experienced a shift in weight. When he looked, he was shocked to see that Yukino and Ino were both sleeping with their heads resting on his shoulder. "What happened while I was out?" He was perplexed. "Good morning. You've been fast asleep for a long time." The abrupt voice startled Naruto. "Kirin, is that who you are? For what duration was I out?" he contemplated. Kirin told Naruto, "You've been sleeping for the most of the day," which shocked him. Naruto turned to see Shikamaru and Choji curled up under a tree next to them, both asleep. He then turned to look a little bit away and saw Sakura and Sasuke both sleeping nearby. When Naruto looked up and saw the moon in the center of the sky, he realized that night had fallen. He was more taken aback by Ino's head resting on his shoulder than he was by Team 10's presence. Then, with a frown, he turned to face Yukino, not forgiving her but still relieved that she was alright. The white cat from earlier was awake and stretched out on Naruto's lap when he felt a slight movement beneath him. The white cat turned to face Naruto and saw that he was staring at it. After a moment of just staring at each other with pink eyes fixed on blue, Naruto tilted his head, causing the white cat to do the same. He then recalled what Kirin had said about the white cat in front of him. Silently so as not to wake anyone, Naruto inquired, "Your name is Chakra, right?" Naruto looked surprised that the white cat understood him as it nodded its head. "You can understand me?" The feline nodded once more in agreement. The now named Chakra asked Naruto in a quiet whisper, "What's your name?" startling him by seemingly speaking. He said, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," clumsily receiving the cat's nod. Silently getting off of Naruto's lap, Chakra said, "I need to talk with you for a bit." He nodded to Chakra and said, "Okay, but I'm going to need a few minutes." He was referring to Ino and Yukino on his shoulders. After that, Naruto very gently lifted Ino's head off his shoulder and allowed her to rest on the ground. Although she did move a little while she slept, not enough for her to wake up. He thought, how did this even happen? And he repeated the action with Yukino, gently picking her up in the bridal style and bringing her to the location of Sasuke and Sakura. That way, since he didn't want to deal with it, they won't be suspicious in the morning. Yukino was shivering when Naruto noticed it, so he removed his jacket before leaving and put it over her to keep her warm for the remainder of the evening. After walking a considerable distance away from both his team and Team 10, Naruto looked up to see Chakra waiting for him in a tree. Flap. Naruto then leapt up towards the tree where Chakra was, but not before taking a quick look around him with his black leather wings sprouting from his back. He noticed that Yukino was responsible for the traps because there was an ice trap to freeze the enemy in place. She probably set those up so no enemy teams don't ambush them, he thought. The area was primarily woods with a small river where his team and Team 10 were located. Naruto glanced off in the distance and saw a sort of tiny orange roof. Though barely perceptible, he surmised that it might be the tower they needed to visit. Then he took off for Chakra, who was standing by patiently, and landed on a branch. Flap. Naruto sat on the branch beside Chakra, his wings retracting. He could see the moon casting moonlight on the surroundings, creating tiny stars around them. It was an incredibly lovely sight. "This is stunning," he said, enthralled, and Chakra nodded. However, Naruto was unaware that Chakra was manipulating the moon's light to create this effect. "I'm happy you enjoy it," Kirin said, and Naruto turned to face the cat in confusion. "She's manipulating the light from the moon to make this." Naruto was taken aback by this since he didn't believe a cat could accomplish all of this, let alone have such excellent control. He initially assumed it was just a regular cat, but after recalling their first meeting and everything he had recently learned from Kirin, he began to reconsider. Naruto complimented Chakra, saying, "You have good control if you can make something like this." She asked, raising her voice, "Did he tell you what I did?" Naruto understood who she was referring to. He turned to face her a little and nodded. Chakra hoped, "Can he manifest himself yet?" "He said that it's too early for him to do so," Naruto remarked, shaking his head. "I see," she mutely uttered while grinning melancholily. Naruto inquired, "Do you miss him?" While Naruto was thinking about something, Chakra simply nodded. "Hello, Kirin." He asked himself in his head, "Is it possible for you to take control of my body so you can talk to her?" "Indeed, it is." Kirin answered, "But only if you want me to," and Naruto gave a mental nod. Naruto briefly closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he could see Chakra with green eyes. Asking Naruto, "Hey Chakra, how have you been?" was Kirin. Naruto's green eyes confused Chakra as she glanced up at him. She started to cry and pounced on his chest, quickly realizing that this was the Dark Prince speaking to her. Naruto gave her a startled look for a moment before grinning and petting her as she sobbed. Chakra said, I missed you so much," in between tears. "It's me too. How are you doing?" Kirin answered. I've been okay. What about you? How are you holding up?" replied she. "I've been okay as well. Also you can call me Kirin by the way," said Kirin. "Kirin?" He smiled and said, "That's my new name. Naruto called me that. He's a good kid," which caused Chakra to smile as well. "I see. It suits you. Also, do you think Naruto can handle this?" she inquired. "Yes, I trust Naruto," Kirin stated earnestly before recalling a crucial detail. With an uncomfortable glance back, Kirin gazed down at Chakra, blushing slightly but noticeably. He asked, his cheek being scratched, "How's Iris been doing?" Rather than receiving a response, he received a few purrs along with a sly grin and knowing look on Chakra's face. She teased, "Oh, and why do you want to know, huh?" Kirin's blush deepened. I just want to know how she's been." Chakra gave him a long look before laughing. She enjoyed making fun of Iris and Kirin whenever she could. She whispered, "Iris is doing fine, so you don't have to worry." "I see. I'm glad," he grinned warmly, and Chakra grinned back. A brief period of silence passed while Chakra was simply relaxing on Kirin's lap and the two of them relished their reunion. "You know, Iris really wanted to see you, but decided against it because it's too early. Also she wants to see you in person," Chakra told Kirin with a nod. Chakra nodded and Kirin said, "Don't worry, I get it. No matter how much I want to see her, I would also want to see her in person." She comfortingly said, "Don't worry, you two will see each other again. You just have to wait a little longer." He answered, "I know, and I can't wait for when that day comes." He then fell silent for a short while before speaking once more. He said, "I should probably switch back with Naruto now," as he peered up at the heavens. "Oh no, do you have to?" Chakra scowled. "Yes, but don't worry, we can still talk to each other at a later date. Besides, you still have to talk with Naruto too, right?" Kirin responded. It was good speaking with you again, Chakra remarked, nuzzling his stomach. Yeah, you're right. Kirin nodded at Chakra and said, it was nice talking to you too. I'll talk to you later. Kirin closed his eyes and returned control to Naruto. When his eyes opened, they were blue once more. He shook his head a few times before turning to face Chakra, who was sitting on his lap. Naruto inquired, how was your talk? It went well. I appreciate you allowing me to speak with him, she grinned appreciatively. I understand. You're welcome, he grinned back. So what did you want to talk about? Oh, first of all I forgot to fully introduce myself, she said as she recalled. My name is Chakra. I'm kinda like an animal spirit that can take visible form. I can do everything a normal cat can except I can manipulate light and other stuff. She made herself known. He pointed at himself and said, wow, that's cool. It's nice to meet you as well. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Likewise, anyway you should know who Iris is from Kirin, right? She responded. Naruto gave a nod. Alright well, she sent me to come and look after you until you and her partner meet each other, she said. Naruto asked, deadpan, so I'm basically going to have you as my babysitter? Naruto and Kirin perked up at her response. Oh come on, don't say it like that. Think of me as a pet that follows you around everywhere making sure you don't do anything wrong. Naruto said, okay, with awkwardness, and Chakra nodded joyfully, as though she had done something right. He inquired, anything else? Well, it wasn't just because of that, but also I wanted to see who Kirin's partner was, replied she. Oh, I see, just now, Naruto said. Huh? What's that? Chakra inquired. Well, what exactly did you do back there, you know, when you touched my forehead? Replied he. Chakra blinked several times before it finally registered. Oh, you mean that? Well, I just purified you is all, she replied. Purified? Chakra gave a nod. Yes, by manipulating light, you can cure anything that has been tainted by darkness, she said. Naruto appeared shocked as he frantically examined his body, as if searching for something, ostensibly something harmful to him. Chakra clarified this. You don't have to worry. Nothing will happen to you, since you didn't have any control over your dark transformation at the time. You didn't know how to revert back to normal and there was a chance that the darkness will take over you, so I used a large amount of light energy to help you get back to normal, she said. Naruto exhaled deeply. Oh well, thanks you for helping me back there. Kirin said that if I don't have good control over my dark energy, that I could lose my sanity, so thank you, he replied with a nod. No problem. As the sun rose, signaling the start of a new day, Naruto and Chakra started chatting and getting to know one another for a few hours. He questioned, it's morning already? Looks like we must have lost track of time, she said. Well, I think I should head back now and cook breakfast. Alright, let's get going. Naruto gave Chakra a brief glance. I have to ask, where are you going to be? Chakra blinked. She stated, matter of factly, with you of course. I don't have a problem with that. But, I don't know where to put you. I do have my bag, but that's where I have my sharp ninja tools that can hurt you, said Naruto. That's okay. I can just lay on the top of your head or shoulder, she said. After giving it some thought, Naruto nodded, concluding that, for the time being, this was the safest course of action. Alright, that can work. After leaping onto Naruto's shoulder, Chakra settled herself on top of his head in a comfortable position. Okay, let's get going. What do you want to eat? Fish, she exclaimed with joy. Naruto nodded and grinned. Yukino yawned and slowly started to sit up. She stretched briefly before turning to face her side and noticing a Sasuke. Though she wasn't sure why she didn't feel cold at night, she was perplexed because she thought she had slept next to Naruto the night before. Speaking of Naruto, she now realized that she was using his jacket as a blanket, which also confused her. She turned to face Sakura and noticed that Team 10 was also sleeping. When she turned to face Naruto's sleeping quarters from the previous night, she saw that he had vanished and was replaced by Ino. She got up right away and grabbed his jacket, desperately searching for him but failing to find him. She exclaimed, "Everyone wake up," loudly. Everyone was woken up and started to stir. Sakura half slept and said, "What's wrong, Yukino?" "Naruto's gone," Ino exclaimed in front of Yukino, drawing everyone's attention to the location where Naruto was meant to be. "Where did he go?" inquired Shikamaru. Yukino held up Naruto's jacket and said, "I don't know, I was asleep the whole time but, his jacket is here." Still drowsy, Choji questioned, "Did something happen to Naruto when we were asleep?" With the exception of Sasuke, everyone was looking worried. Yukino was the most worried. He probably went somewhere like always, Sasuke remarked, disregarding the circumstances. Yukino started, we don't know that, he could have been, but was cut off. Shuffle. Everyone stood up as the sounds of the bushes caught their attention. Shuffle. Shuffle. As they waited, everyone assumed a fighting stance. After a short while, the new voice said, "Oh sorry, did I startle you?" From the bushes emerged a taller boy than the genin. He wore glasses, had white hair, and was dressed in the traditional blue shinobi uniform. "Kabuto?" inquired Sakura. It was Kabuto. "Pardon, is this a bad time?" he inquired. "Kinda. Have you seen Naruto by chance?" "We don't know where he went," Yukino inquired wistfully. With the exception of the two members of Team 7, his response calmed everyone down. "Sorry, I haven't. My team and I decided to split up to cover more ground. I saw you guys were all gathered and I figured I could come help out some fellow Leaf Ninja." Yukino, since her instincts told her to be wary of Kabuto even though she didn't know why at first, and Sasuke, since his team still needed a heaven scroll to pass the exam, and he was prepared to fight for it. "But maybe I can help," Kabuto said, startled when he felt a black kunai pressed against his neck, surprising the others. He turned slowly to give anyone sneaking behind him a menacing glare, but was startled to see Naruto, who had green eyes and an emotionless expression, still holding the kunai against his neck. "Naruto!" Yukino exclaimed, startled. She was happy to hear he was alright but concerned because he seemed to be acting as though he hadn't taken his eyes off Kabuto since his arrival. "What are you doing here?" The others shook in terror as Naruto asked, "Why are you here?" in a tone that was both deadly serious and emotionless. "How did he manage to get past me?" Kabuto contemplated. Wait, Naruto. Kabuto was going to consider helping us find you, Yukino clarified. After giving Yukino a brief moment of staring at her, Naruto turned his attention to everyone else, who shook their heads in agreement. Then, he returned his attention to Yukino, who was giving him a beseeching look. When Naruto opened his eyes, his usual blue eyes were there, and he turned to face Kabuto. Naruto closed his eyes and carefully pulled back his kunai. "Sorry about that, Kabuto." "No, he's not. I didn't know." "Yes, he did. I hope you understand my actions since this is still an exam after all," said Naruto. "No, I understand, Naruto. We have to keep our guard up from enemies at all times, plus you did a good job sneaking up behind me," Kabuto said. Though he didn't trust Kabuto, Naruto just nodded without saying anything. He is able to detect when someone is receiving negative attention because of his dark power. He had a clear view of Kabuto. "Hi Naruto, nice to see you awake," Ino said with a smile. Naruto then turned to face Team 10. "Where were you?" inquired Shikamaru. Lifting a fishnet, Naruto said, "I went to get us some breakfast. Since you three arrived, I've caught a few more." "Yes, indeed. I'm going to starve." Shikamaru sighed, and Choji cheered, raising his fist in the air to indicate that he was still sleepy. "Thank you, I appreciate that. I really didn't want to hear Choji complaining he didn't eat while we were moving." Shikamaru grinned. Naruto grinned slightly and nodded in response to Choji's actions. "That's just the way Choji is, isn't that right? Additionally, it will need to wait as it needs to be cooked first," Naruto stated, drawing nods from Shikamaru and Choji. Naruto turned to face Kabuto and said, "I have extras. Do you want some too?" "I appreciate the offer, but I just finished breakfast," replied Kabuto, and Choji remarked about how fortunate he was. With a nod, Naruto, "Do you need assistance with that?" Ino asked abruptly. Naruto looked at Ino with a bewildered expression. "Thank you, but no, I'm okay," Naruto said, declining her offer. "Oh, I see. But please ask for help if you need it," Ino said politely. "Yes." Naruto answered clumsily, genuinely unsure of how to respond to that. Yukino let out a sigh, thinking that Naruto would overlook them, and she was relieved as he turned his attention to his team and advanced towards her. Naruto interrupted Yukino, saying, "Naruto, I'm glad. Please give me my jacket back." With barely a look on his face, he said, holding out his hand to his jacket. Naruto never treated her that way during their time together, so Yukino was taken aback by it. She then recalled the female sound ninja's comment, "You guys abandoned him all on his own. At this point it won't surprise me if he despises you all now." Yukino never wanted this to happen, she thought to herself. "Yukino," Naruto uttered to get her focus once more. "Oh, I'm sorry," Yukino stammered as he returned his jacket. After Naruto accepted it, she simply walked by her. Yukino felt tears well up in her eyes. "Are you alright, Yukino?" Sakura approached her and noticed that her eye was about to well up with tears. Swiftly wiping her eyes, Yukino turned to face Sakura and forced a false smile. Yes, she replied, I'm okay. Are you certain? Sakura inquired once more. Yes, don't worry, I'm okay, she reassured him. Sakura replied, well, if you say so, and then she turned to face Naruto, who had just started the fire and was preparing their breakfast. What happened to Naruto? Sakura wondered. When breakfast was ready, Naruto called out to her after a while. Yes. I said to her it's time for breakfast. When Naruto turned to face his team in the tree, Sakura turned to him and spoke to him for the first time since they had left him. Go get Choji and Shikamaru and I'll go get my team, Naruto said, and Ino nodded before moving to where her teammates were resting. She smiled and said, Naruto, I'm glad you're okay. The other person noticed her approach, but her words had no effect on him. Instead, he continued to ignore her. Before Sakura or Yukino could react, Sasuke sat up. He saw Naruto right away and grinned. Sakura appeared hurt. Yukino was about to say something when Naruto interrupted, but before he could say anything, Sasuke said, so you managed to survive, huh, dope? In an attempt to get a response out of the blonde. The others were caught off guard by Naruto's icy tone. Get up, Ino is going to get her team and as soon as we eat breakfast we're leaving. Sasuke answered with a similarly icy tone. And why should I listen to you? Sakura said, because unlike you, I'm not a coward who runs away from a fight. Naruto's response made Sasuke furious, and he stood up with his Sharingan active. Naruto's eyes greened, and they both glared back at each other. Sakura then spoke, and Yukino swiftly moved between them. Guys, please. Yukino turned to Naruto and said, Naruto, look, I'm so sorry I left you but Sasuke. Sasuke huffed and pushed past Sakura and Yukino, sending a glare in Naruto's direction. Let's just be glad we all managed to survive, Sasuke said, clutching his neck. What you say makes no difference. After I returned and risked my life for you three, you left me for dead. That doesn't change anything. Naruto turned around without waiting for a response. Naruto was correct. No matter what they said, it wouldn't alter the result. Yukino was trying to contain her tears. Sakura and Yukino both had hurt expressions on their faces. Yukino looked down. However, Naruto interrupted them as they were thinking, but, as they turned to face him, he turned to face the two girls with his warm blue eyes, giving them a glimpse they had never had before. He gave them a kind, despite that, I'm glad you're all okay, before turning to face the others. Yukino felt something warm her cheeks after Naruto said that. She realized that despite everything that had happened, Naruto still wanted to be her friend, even though he wouldn't forgive her at the moment. Yukino smiled and put her hands to her chest, crying as she said, thank you. She then turned to Sakura, who was looking at her with an expression of amazement. Sakura was pulled towards the group by Yukino, who grabbed her hand and said, come on Sakura. Sakura simply gave a nod. Kabuto, along with members of teams 7 and 10, took a seat in front of the fire to eat breakfast and converse. Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, thank you for helping out my team, said Naruto. Choji gave a nod. No problem Naruto, we couldn't just sit there and do nothing while they were being attacked. Yeah, it was troublesome, but if we hadn't helped Ino would have yelled at us until we were deaf, Shikamaru replied. To Yukino's dismay, Ino, who was seated next to Naruto, rolled her eyes and gave Shikamaru a playful punch. I must inquire, but first of all, why are you with us? I mean, rather than remaining here with us, shouldn't you go find another scroll? Naruto inquired. We just need to head to the tower, we already have the other scroll we need, grinned Ino. She said, proudly putting her hand to her chest. Everyone's perspiration stopped. This startled both Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto quickly regained his composure and asked, if that's the case, then why aren't you heading straight to the tower then? Yukino said the same thing, and we answered that we can help each other out also we can make sure none of us gets ambushed like before while on our way to the tower. Shikamaru clarified. With a nod, Naruto reached into the fire pit to retrieve another fish on a stick. Sasuke uttered, hold on, we get one each. That's not for me, Naruto said coolly, so, who is it for? Sasuke uttered. Just then, a white cat that had surprised everyone by jumping on Naruto's shoulder meowed at them. It was Chakra. It's the cat again, Choji exclaimed in shock as Naruto handed Chakra the fish, who began to eat it contentedly. She will also be accompanying us, Naruto declared. Yukino looked at Chakra and said, so it's a girl after all. Who made the decision that she would accompany us? Chakra stopped and hissed at Sasuke after he said that. Yes, is there a problem? I did. As he faced Sasuke, Naruto said. We don't need any more distractions than we already have. Dope, said Sasuke. She's not going to be a distractions, I'm not arguing about this, besides she's going to be with me the whole time, said Naruto. Sasuke concluded the conversation by saying, whatever, as long as you're the one taking care of it, then fine. Sakura and Yukino sighed with relief because they had assumed there would be another altercation between the boys. The girls found it adorable when Chakra finished her fish and leapt up to lie down next to Naruto's head. All right, it's time to head out, Naruto uttered. Kabuto abruptly said, hold on, you need to think of a strategy to pass this part of the exam. Oh, right, Sakura uttered. Yukino remarked, looks like we can't leave yet. Naruto said, there's no need for that, which confused the others. Sasuke mockingly remarked, hey Dope, we need 2 scroll in order to pass the exam, or did you forget that? Naruto asked, you mean like this one? As he took out another scroll from his bag. This one was white and bore the kanji character for heaven. Wait, how did you? When I was in the forest, I encountered another team, but they assumed I was weak because I was by myself. After I dealt with them, they had both the earth and heaven scroll, and I just took the one we lost thanks to him, concluded Naruto. When Naruto mentioned him, Team 7 understood exactly who he meant, but the other members were either perplexed or, in the case of practically all of them, Kabuto knew. Who did you come across that caused you to misplace your scroll? Kabuto inquired. Naruto stood up and said, that doesn't matter now, but since we all have the scrolls they need, we need to get the tower. Everyone nodded and got to their feet as well. I can guide you there, as one of my teammates discovered the tower's location, Kabuto remarked, and everyone gave a nod. Skipping time. After a few hours of silent travel, Kabuto and Sasuke led the group, and Ino, Sakura, and Yukino turned to face them. Before Yukino or Sakura could say anything, Naruto beat them to it. Shikamaru had then asked Naruto why he wasn't with the rest of his team when the sound team attacked. Ino noticed both Yukino and Sakura's expressions but said nothing, looking perplexed. We got separated when an enemy team ambushed us. Yukino and Sakura looked surprised, and Sasuke looked impassive as he heard what he said. Shikamaru nodded, looking calculating, at Naruto's surprising response. Choji then spoke up as well. Naruto, you looked really good against Sasuke. I had no idea you were so skilled. Sasuke gave Choji's compliment a tick mark and turned to face Naruto, glaring and wearing a tough expression. Upon hearing Choji remark that Kabuto cast a cunning glance back at Naruto, the latter turned around. To what are they referring? He wondered. Yes. It was pretty cool, but you did look scary when you were fighting. You didn't even change your expression when you sliced his huge fireball with that sword. Ino responded, quickly displaying fear, and he began to sweat with Yukino and Sakura. This confused Naruto, as he couldn't recall much of what had happened when he first woke up, but he did remember meeting another team and grabbing their scroll. What happened after that was a blur, but he sort of remembered that there were some ninjas with white masks and then some blood after that, but he knew he was fighting Sasuke, and then Chakra touched his forehead, then blanked. There was also a meeting with Kirin, and he woke up in the middle of the night. Well, what became of Naruto's awesome sword? Choji inquired. He thought, oh yeah, wonder what happened to it, did I somehow leave it? Kirin said inside Naruto, I called it back since you didn't need it at the time, and he nodded in his head. Oh, right. Naruto shrugged and said, not sure, but I don't think it matters right now. All three of the girls exhaled a breath of relief. Hey, what kind of power did you display there again? Shikamaru remarked, your entire appearance changed, and your strength was unbelievable. It seemed like you could defeat Sasuke despite those odd markings on his face. Naruto cursed, damn, I was hoping I didn't have to answer this. So he ended up doing it then, but what's this about a strange power Naruto displayed? That he could beat Sasuke even with the curse mark? Kabuto thought, looking at Sasuke, who had a hand on his neck. While everyone was waiting, Naruto tried to figure out how he could respond to this. To be honest, I'm not sure I can say this, but Naruto chose to appear naive. You're not able to say, Ino says. Or rather, I can't recall what transpired, I apologize, Naruto said, acting the part by scratching his head. Shikamaru uttered, I see, but he was doubtful. Sighing, Naruto, well done on that one, Kirin remarked. Thank you, Naruto thought. I didn't want them to know about it, especially with Kabuto around. Yes, there is a problem with him. Based on how our powers are responding, which is akin to a sixth sense, I'm sure you noticed. Kirin nodded as Naruto said, "Yes, I have. It's giving me a twitchy feeling. The same way with that snake guy, but his was more powerful than Kabuto." Kirin remarked, "He might be connected to him," and Naruto nodded. "Yes, it seems correct. I need to monitor him closely." Based on his expression when Shikamaru mentioned markings, he must be aware of what that snake guy did to him, Naruto speculated, and Kirin nodded. "Naruto, you better use caution." "I will," Naruto replied, cutting off their exchange. "Naruto?" Yukino interrupted Naruto in his reverie. "Are you okay?" she worriedly inquired. He answered, "Yeah, sorry, just spaced out there," and she gave a nod. The group carried on, skipping time. The two teams stopped briefly for lunch before continuing their journey, and after 4 hours more of traveling, they stopped again upon hearing arguments from two of the other team's members. They were all dressed in black pants and standard shinobi shirts, and the woman arguing had long black hair tied in a ponytail. The group decided to capture any enemy teams they came across, and Sasuke introduced himself to the ninjas as Shikamaru sneaked up behind them and used his shadow possession jutsu to immobilize the enemy, who then stopped yelling insults and threats until they were knocked out by Yukino and Naruto. The group then tied the two teams up and proceeded to search the sand ninjas, finding an earth scroll. To the surprise of everyone, Sasuke said, "Naruto, give me the scrolls." "Hold on to Sasuke," Sakura uttered. "Why ought I to?" Naruto interrupted her, saying. Sasuke said, extending his hand to take the scrolls, "I think I should hold on to them for now." "You did not respond to my query, so tell me why you desire them." Once more, Naruto uttered. "I would be best suited for handling the scrolls," said Sasuke. "And I'm not." In response, Naruto said, "Just hand me the scrolls, Naruto." "We're arguing here for no purpose," Sasuke said, growing irritated. "Yeah, we are, so how about you stop trying to argue and we can get on our way," replied Naruto. "So give the scrolls to me first. I'm not doing something that's unnecessary." "Guys, give up battling," Yukino said. Sasuke simply allowed Naruto to keep the scrolls. "Why he can't just hand me the scrolls is beyond me." As Sasuke glanced at his girlfriend, he said. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as Naruto said, "Maybe it's because I don't trust you." "Why not?" he uttered unfazed. Naruto uttered, "I'm afraid you might try to give away our scrolls again." Kabuto and Team 10 were perplexed by what Naruto had just said. Sasuke started, "Why you?" but was interrupted. "It's enough," Yukino yelled, startling everyone, including Naruto, who had never heard her yell before well, except for the one occasion when she shielded him from civilians. "Sasuke, if you continue to argue like a child, we will not be leaving," Yukino stated, leaving no opportunity for debate. "Let Naruto hold onto the scrolls. He's been doing a good job keeping them safe so far, so just let it be." Sasuke walked past Yukino, who sighed and placed her hand on her forehead, saying, "TCH, whatever." Shikamaru remarked, "Sigh, what a troublesome day," and Naruto concurred. Skipping time. As Choji and Shikamaru made the decision to go to the nearby river to catch some fish, the two teams and Kabuto set up camp for the night. Sakura started the fire while Sasuke went off to a nearby tree to rest, leaving Ino, Yukino, and Naruto alone with Chakra still lying on his head. Chakra took advantage of the time they had to talk about something. "Hey, what's up with those faces?" Ino's question caught Yukino off guard and must have confused Naruto, because he spoke again. "Since my clan specializes in information gathering, it was quite simple for me to determine right away that you guys weren't telling the whole truth." Shikamaru also noticed, but he chose not to speak up because it would have been too troublesome. Figures, Yukino and Naruto both thought as they let out a mental sigh. After giving it some serious thought, Yukino replied, I'll tell you after we reach the tower." Naruto remained silent, not wanting to tell Ino anything because, first of all, she didn't need to know and, second, doing so would make his team move slower. Besides, he really needed to talk to the Hokage about Orochimaru and the seal he had placed on him and Sasuke. Ino scowled at Yukino, obviously not liking her response, and then turned to face Naruto, who remained silent. "Well, MPH. She made it clear in her tone that neither of them could argue, so even though Naruto and Yukino didn't feel like talking about what had happened, they nodded, knowing that there was nothing they could do about it. Eventually, everyone aside from Sasuke gathered around the fire, ate dinner, and then drew lots to see who would take watch. Naruto had drawn the second. Last watch, with Choji taking the last spot. Shikamaru would go first, followed by Ino, Sasuke, Sakura, and Yukino. Before long, the night was over, and Yukino approached Naruto to inform him that it was now his duty to guard the clone. He then went to a secret branch, created 4 clones to guard him, and meditated until it was Choji's turn. While traveling in the direction of the tower, the group awoke shortly before dawn. Naruto sensed something was wrong as they were traveling to the tower. His senses were going crazy. He stopped moving and put his hand to his head in an attempt to gather himself. Chakra couldn't bear for anyone to hear her speak, so she meowed to alert the group when she noticed how nervous Naruto was acting. When the others heard Chakra meow and turned to look behind them, they saw that Naruto was crouching with his hand on his head. This alarmed Yukino and Ino, so they hurried over to talk to him. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Yukino expressed concern. Gradually rising to his feet, Naruto took in his surroundings with caution. He surprised the others by saying, "We've been put in a genjutsu," as they approached him. "Are you certain?" Naruto nodded as Yukino spoke. "How could you be certain?" Sasuke uttered. The group was on guard as a voice spoke out and 3 figures emerged from the ground as Yukino and Kabuto put their hands together and shouted, "Release," confirming that they were in a genjutsu. Sasuke glared at Naruto before releasing the genjutsu himself as the others followed suit. The center ninja pointed to Naruto, whose expression remained unchanged, and said, "So you noticed the genjutsu, huh? That's surprising coming from you of all people. Well, it doesn't matter, we will be taking your scrolls from you now." The genins were all from the Rain Village, wearing tan jumpsuits and masks around their eyes, with the one on the left covering one eye and the one on the right covering both. The middle one had 2 eye holes and was glaring at the group. Sasuke moved up front. "Is it possible for you to accept all 7 of us at once? We outnumber you," Sasuke declared, aware that they were outnumbered and that the other person agreed. The enemy immediately began to emerge from the ground and the surrounding trees as soon as he said that. With a deadpan expression, Shikamaru said to Sasuke, "You just had to say something." "Chick. What are they?" Sakura inquired. Yukino said, assuming a combat stance, "It seems to be some sort of clones that come out of the ground and trees, there's a lot of them too." "Like trapped rats, he, uttered a clone rain ninja from behind Naruto. The others were startled and alarmed to learn that these weren't your typical clones when Naruto swiftly delivered a spinning kick to the clone's head. To their surprise, the kick passed through the target with ease and the clone began to change into a black sludge. "How absurd," Ino remarked, stepping back. "What's going on?" Sasuke asked himself, attempting to make sense of it all. "We must come up with a quick idea," Choji remarked. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Chakra nodded as Naruto whispered, "Chakra, I need you to get in my jacket so you can be safe. Things are about to get crazy." She said, "Okay, but be careful," and Naruto nodded. It appears that this cannot be avoided, he thought. Only about 40 clones appeared to be encircling them, as Naruto peered around them. "I can't tell which of these 3 is the real Rain Ninja. The others are either clones or illusions." Naruto thought to himself once more, peering down at his stomach. "Thanks to this seal, I can't put more chakra into my jutsus. I guess this will have to do for now." Jutsu Shadow Clone. With a wave of his hand, 20 of Naruto's clones materialized and charged the other enemy clones. Sincerely, sharing. Sasuke activated his bloodline limit and said. Sasuke attempted to move out of the way, but for some reason, he was unable to avoid the enemy clone as it turned to face him and brandished a double-sided kunai. "What's going on?" Sasuke wondered as he experienced a sharp pain in his neck. "Kaizen." Yukino and Sakura both yelled. "Slow down." "I pushed Sasuke down, but I ended up cutting my arm," exclaimed Kabuto. As Yukino helped Sasuke sit up, Kabuto gave a painful groan and stood back up, wondering why he was unable to move his body. Seeing an opportunity, Naruto threw a kunai at the clone that had thrown the double-sided weapon. It hit, but it went straight through him like before and sank to the ground. Naruto stared at the wound on Kabuto's arm and thought, what if that wasn't one of them and that was just an illusion, then why? Naruto then gave something some thought. It's worth a try to see if I can enhance anything through my body, including my senses, if I can summon my dark powers from my soul to my body. Then, as Naruto closed his eyes and focused, he began to sense the dark powers circulating throughout his body. "Naruto?" As the others noticed Naruto simply standing there with his eyes closed, Ino called out to them. Ignoring her, Naruto focused more. He could sense everyone around him now, and he could feel the power flowing through him. All of the clones are false. The real ones are hiding like cowards, he reasoned. Kirin tried to reason with Naruto, saying, You have to calm down. If you don't, the darkness will. But Naruto was uninterested, and as he focused more on his darkness, the darkness began to corrupt him. The others were perplexed as to what was happening and just watched in silence as Naruto was surrounded by a dark aura. It's the same, Ino mumbled, her eyes wide. Ino, what do you mean? Yukino questioned, keeping her gaze fixed on Naruto. It was the same feeling I had when Naruto first appeared as Sasuke was going to handle that last sound ninja, Ino said, explaining why everyone's eyes widened except for Kabuto, who was perplexed. What are they discussing, and is Naruto doing anything to him too, and what's going on with him? Naruto. Get over it quickly, Kirin repeated himself, but Naruto was unable to hear him, so it was ineffective. Chakra was startled when she suddenly saw movement from Naruto's jacket, leapt out, and ran into Yukino's arms while running towards the group. Oh no, if he keeps doing this, he's getting corrupted, Chakra thought. Naruto was narrowing his focus even more. He felt an endless power inside of him that was wonderful for him. Everybody. Most of the time the three rain ninjas were observing the entire scene from a distance when Naruto simply closed his eyes and remained motionless. To his teammates, the lead rain ninja in hiding exclaimed, "What's up with that guy?" "Not sure, but whatever is going on with him, he won't be able to defeat us," the other person replied. "Yes, you're correct," the rain ninja said, then waited. Returning to the others, Kabuto was curious as to what transpired with Naruto because it seemed like they knew. Kabuto began, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" But Naruto interrupted. "Found you." When Naruto opened his eyes, everything had turned green due to a sudden surge of dark energy that had come from him, pushing everyone backwards against the wind. The clones had vanished, as if they had never existed at all. The others slowly awoke and turned to face Naruto, but all they saw was a black, hazy figure. Naruto was now encircled by dark energy. Two bright green eyes peered out from the figure in the exact location where the three rain ninja were at the moment. Then, beginning at the bottom of the figure's feet, the dark mist began to break apart almost like glass, revealing a pair of black shinobi sandals. Moving up, it revealed black and red pants that the group recognized. Moving on, it revealed a black and red jumpsuit. Finally, it went to the figure's face, revealing Naruto with his eyes closed and only his glowing black hair remaining. Finally, it dissipated, revealing Naruto with black hair with a few red strips. While the group was taken aback by Naruto's metamorphosis, Kabuto was taken aback even more. What is this power, please? If he had given Naruto the curse mark back then, it would be too strong even for him. No, this is much too strong even with the curse mark. What's going on here? Kabuto wondered, trying to make sense of what was going on. It seems to be the same as it was previously, Shoji thought in shock. This sensation is trying to get me to flee, but Ino shook her head. What is this? Shikamaru uttered. Sakura and Yukino remained silent, simply gazing in shock at Naruto. This power is the same as the huge burst of power that Sakura and I felt, so was that Naruto? Yukino thought. Is this indeed Naruto? Sasuke pondered. Step. Naruto stepped forward, startling them out of their reverie. He looked down at his hands as dark energy engulfed them, then looked back toward the rain ninja and set them on the ground. Break. Surprising the group, black chains shot out of the ground and flew in the direction of the rain ninja, making contact as they became immobile. The lead rain ninja exclaimed, startled, "What the hell is this?" The other person exclaimed, "Where did these chains come from?" Then, as dark energy was gathering, Naruto stood up and extended his hand in the direction of the rain ninjas. Another pair of black chains then emerged, encircling the ninjas as a whole. The three rain ninjas were pulled into the clearing by the chains as Naruto then withdrew his arm, causing them to crash into the earth with a painful groan. The three gave Naruto a fierce look, but he didn't even shift his facial expression. Trying to stand up, one of the rain ninja remarked, "This kid's different from before." The leader's eyes narrowed as he spoke, "It doesn't matter once we get out of these chains, we'll send everything we have at him." He got his wish as the chains suddenly vanished, releasing them. "Well, it appears that I achieved my goal," the leader remarked. As they surrounded Naruto and each pulled out a double-sided kunai, more illusion clones began to emerge. One of them even threw some shuriken at him. "Naruto!" exclaimed Yukino. The group was taken aback when Naruto suddenly appeared with two black armored gauntlets with claws as dark energy started to envelop his hands and arms on both sides. Shoji asked, "Where did those gauntlets come from?" But nobody responded because they were too preoccupied with the fight. The clones started charging at Naruto with their kunai after he used just one gauntlet to reflect all of the shuriken. Naruto also charged, starting his attack on the clones with slashes and punches at every opportunity he had. Everyone was barely able to keep up with Naruto as he moved through the entire area like a black blur. He attacked at high speeds, doing the same to every other clone he encountered until none remained. Whenever he got close to an illusion clone, he would execute a punch or a slash. He didn't even pause to consider what would happen next. The way Naruto is handling the clones surprised the onlookers. "Whoa, he's so fast, I would say even faster than before," said Choji. "He's even flexible enough to dodge the clones whenever they're about to attack him," said Shikamaru. Sakura whispered, "That's weird." Ino questioned, "What's weird?" "Whenever these illusions get damaged they would just make some black sludge, but when Naruto hit them, it just vanished," Yukino stated. In fact, the clones did not turn into black sludge as they had previously. Instead, they simply vanished as Naruto continued to punch and slash at them. The lead rain ninja turned to face a teammate, startled and exclaiming, What's going on? Why aren't there any more illusions appearing?" His teammate responded, "I'm trying, but something is interfering with the genjutsu." Everyone turned to stare in shock at Naruto. Naruto was able to quickly dispatch those illusions with what seemed to be minimal effort, but it took them a great deal of work just to hold them off. Kabuto said, "That was something, not even sure what he was seeing." "Naruto," muttered Yukino. "Where did you get the power from, Naruto?" Sasuke pondered. Everyone shivered when Naruto said, "That's done," looking at the three rain ninja. Naruto had never spoken like that before. One of the rain ninja yelled at Naruto, "Grr, don't underestimate us, you brat, take this." The lead rain ninja exclaimed, "Wait, hold on." When the enemy approached, Naruto struck him in the stomach with a black gauntlet so strong that the rain ninja choked out blood. Not content to stop there, he then kneed the rain ninja in the stomach, causing them to fall back. Finally, Naruto executed a spinning kick to the rain ninja's head, sending him towards a tree and causing a crack. The ninja was rendered unconscious at this point. Yukino and the others were disturbed by the scene. They had no idea that Naruto could be so vicious to the opposing team. Yukino was experiencing flashbacks of her past interactions with Naruto, when he was always happy and energetic, and now that she was seeing him again. The other rain ninja lunged at Naruto, saying, "You bastard." The leader yelled, "Wait." The rain ninja, filled with fury, challenged Naruto to a taijutsu duel, but Naruto continued avoiding the attacks. The rain ninja waved his hands and said, "Oh yeah, then how about this? Water style, water pellet." The rain ninja swiftly launched a large water bullet in Naruto's direction. "Naruto!" was yelled at him by the group. Without flinching, Naruto raised his right gauntlet, created a ball of energy that was red and black, and directed it toward the water bullet. Everyone was prepared for an explosion, but none materialized. Instead, Naruto's black and red energy ball passed through the water bullet, canceling it out, and arrived at the rain ninja with wide eyes. "What?" the ninja exclaimed as the projectile approached him and burst, sending him flying into a tree. The rain ninja gave Naruto a fierce, angry look as he slowly stood up. Before charging, Naruto just stared at the ninja. The ninja attempted to hit him in a panic, but he dodged and pierced his arm with his gauntlet's claws, then pierced his side and elbowed his face. Naruto then used his legs to make the ninja turn sideways as he spun along with the ninja. After a short while, Naruto brought his leg down on the ninja's head as he was slammed to the ground, rendering him unconscious. When Naruto turned to face the last rain ninja, everyone was in shock. Only one remained, he declared. "No, this isn't you," Yukino said, staring at Naruto. The leader yelled, "TCH, don't think I'm that easy to take down like those idiots," and lunged toward Naruto. No, looking at the rain ninja, Naruto just stood there, waiting. "TCH, don't look down on me," exclaimed the lead rain ninja, before hurling some shuriken and kunai. With his own kunai and shuriken out of his grasp, Naruto focused some of his dark energy into them to give them a dark aura before hurling them at the approaching projectiles. No, after they made contact, Naruto's own shuriken and kunai caused the enemies to shatter completely, like glass. It then moved toward the rain ninja, cutting him easily. Fortunately, he was able to avoid some of them, but now he was experiencing burning pains on both sides. No. The rain ninja waved his hand and said, "Okay, then take this." Water style. Sea Dragon Blast. When the rain ninja's mouth opened, a stream of water shot out in Naruto's direction. As his armored gauntlets, boots, and kneecaps vanished from him, Naruto simply stared at it. The Rain Ninja said, "Well, it looks like you don't have any protection now." Dark energy encircled Naruto's hands as he raised them, but his expression remained unchanged. Bam! The ninja chuckled, "Haha, it looks like you weren't so tough after all." The group was taken aback and concerned that Naruto had taken the blow squarely, or so they believed. They were even more taken aback when they saw Naruto standing there, shielded from the blast by a massive black shield. The Rain Ninja grinned evilly and said, "TCH, okay, you protected yourself, but who's going to protect your comrades?" As Naruto's eyes widened. The group was taken aback when the Rain Ninja began to make new hand gestures and released another stream of water while pointing at them. Sakura exclaimed, "Oh no, gosh, I forgot to be careful," Kabuto uttered. The others were taken off guard, and all they could do was raise their hands to protect themselves. They were expecting an impact, but it never materialized. Instead, they only noticed a light drizzle on their faces. When they opened their eyes, they were shocked to see a whirling, red dot and black object shielding them from the water. What? He can see that the group was unharmed when the Rain Ninja's attack ended. When the spinning object slowed down, it became clear that Naruto's sword was shielding them. Ino exclaimed, "Wait, that's Naruto's sword? It's from earlier," Shikamaru remarked. "That sword has the ability to repel chakra in addition to cutting through it," Sasuke thought. The others turned to face Naruto, but his hair obscured his eyes. He then stuck out his hand and the sword flew in Naruto's direction, startling the others. With ease, Naruto grasped the sword and addressed the last Rain Ninja. With his head raised and his eyes glowing a menacing green, Naruto said, "That was a mistake." With his eyes fixed on the Rain Ninja, Naruto began to move toward him. The Rain Ninja cried out in terror, "Stay back," and hurled a few more shuriken, but Naruto blocked it with his sword, causing the shuriken to break as they struck. After stopping his advance, Naruto simply vanished from view, leaving the others to attempt to locate him. Where did he go?" Ino asked, surveying her surroundings. Worried, Yukino inquired, "Where is he?" "Nowhere can I feel him," Kabuto remarked. A thunderous ache in his back stopped the Rain Ninja from asking, "Where did he?" The Rain Ninja screamed, "Ah!" and collapsed, drawing the group's attention. What they saw horrified them. Naruto was standing behind the fallen ninja, holding his sword. The group noticed that Naruto's sword had some blood on the tip, and the fallen ninja had a large red slash on his back. Yukino covered her mouth in shock and horror as she looked at Naruto, but his expression remained the same. She saw him stare at the Rain Ninja as if he were insignificant, and her perception of the kind and content Naruto began to crack. "No." Naruto spun around to face the Rain Ninja, snatched him by the shirt, and hurled him in the direction of his teammates. The terrified ninja attempted to flee as Naruto began to approach them. Laugh. Gradually, Yukino's mental image of Naruto began to fracture. The Rain Ninja hurled their scroll in Naruto's direction, saying, "Wait, why don't you win all right here?" Naruto halted and turned to face the Earth Scroll that was thrown at him. With bated breath, everyone watched to see what Naruto would do next. The group, and Yukino in particular, were hoping that it would be enough to make him stop and return to normal, so they were shocked when Naruto simply looked up, walked past the scroll, and continued to the terrified Rain Ninja. Yukino was too preoccupied with Naruto to notice the tears streaming down her face. She couldn't bear to watch him act in such a way. The longer she watched Naruto walk towards the Rain Ninja, the more the image of him cracked in her mind. This wasn't the Naruto she knew. It wasn't the loving, compassionate childhood friend she had known and cherished. Her perception of Naruto cracked more when she saw him in such a state. Laugh. No, laugh. No. Now, with his teammates by his sides, Naruto stood before the Rain Ninja, staring down at him as he slowly raised his sword. Wait, hold on. You are a coward that brings shame upon Thier village. Laugh. A coward that is willing to sacrifice anything to live, aren't you? Laugh. N.Noy. You're wrong. I'm wrong. Did you forget what you did? You just gave me your team's scroll. What if this was a real mission like they said? You had an important scroll for your village that you needed to protect at all cost, and you just suddenly gave it away to save yourself. Your selfish actions have costed the safety of your village and killed innocent people, said Naruto. Naruto raised his sword higher, saying, also, you think I'm going to let what you did slide? Wah. Naruto raised his sword and remarked, I was the one fighting you, but you then drew the others into this, you tried to hurt them. No. Please stop, Yukino thought, watching Naruto's image break apart. Naruto, Chakra pondered. Laugh, please spare. You know I could kill you right now if I wanted to. Laugh. When Naruto said that he wasn't going to kill him, everyone gasped in shock. This is an exam, after all the leaf won't be responsible for your death since it's common in these things, said Naruto. Laugh. As he prepared to bring his sword down, Naruto remarked, that's exactly what I'll do. Laugh. 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 No. Please, Naruto began to strike the rain ninja with his sword. Tearfully, Yukino yelled, stop, and rushed in Naruto's direction. Naruto was shaking uncontrollably at that point, so he used his other hand to stop his sword from falling on the rain ninja. No. As he battled to prevent the sword from falling, Naruto's appearance alternated between his dark and normal clothes. Kirin exclaimed, damn, this always happens. Kirin. Naruto thought. Naruto, hold on, Kirin declared, I'm going to try to suppress the corruption, but I need Chakra's help. Then, Naruto felt an embrace from behind him. Turning to face Yukino, he saw her clinging to him and crying as Naruto looked at her. Yukino, he uttered. Please stop, just go back to how you were. As he knelt down, appearing to be in pain, Naruto was doing his best to contain himself. He then turned to face Chakra. He thought telepathically, Chakra. Chakra hurried to get closer to the two. Yes, Naruto? Chakra expressed concern. Chakra and Naruto established a link connection while they were in the forest so that, in the event that one of them got lost, they could still get in touch. This also served as a means for Chakra to have their private conversation without being seen by others. Chakra nodded as Naruto said, Kirin is going to try and suppress my dark energy, but he needs your help in order to do that. Chakra began enveloping herself in light, startling the others in the process. She then hurried over to Naruto's side as they were engulfed in a brilliant light. Although the light made it difficult for the others to see, they were able to observe that Naruto was returning to his usual appearance and that Yukino was still holding onto him. Yukino begged Naruto to, please come back to your senses. After that, Naruto felt as though time had stopped. He looked around and saw that everyone was frozen. He then turned to face himself and saw that, although he was still in full control of his body, he could still move. Suddenly, he noticed a light coming from above and peered up to see a figure in white. He could tell it was a female, probably a little taller than he was at the moment. She was the most beautiful girl Naruto had ever seen. Her aura was radiating a lot of light, and he felt safe, like he felt welcomed by the aura and the girl. She had silver eyes staring at his green ones, and as she descended towards him, he could see a pair of white feathered wings on her back flapping. Now that the girl was hovering over him, her hands were resting on his cheeks. Unconsciously, Naruto put his hand over hers and closed his eyes, feeling at ease enough to nod off at any time. Naruto. The girl whispered, causing Naruto to widen his eyes in shock. She nodded when he said, you know my name? Yes I do, he asked. What's yours? But the girl shook her head. It's too soon for you to know, but don't worry, we will see each other again, she replied. Naruto. Listen, I am sorry, but we run out of time. He inquired, you're leaving? Well, this is all I have to give you, but it will help you control some of your darkness until you learn how to master it, the girl said, lifting Naruto's headband and joining their foreheads. A bright flash of light then surrounded them. When Naruto opened his eyes and realized he was no longer able to see the girl, time seemed to be moving forward once more. He then looked down and saw he was wearing his original clothes. That is, for the most part. The other half of him was still dressed in black and red, and Chakra was dozing off in his arms when he laid her down in his hair to rest. Thank God you're okay, Naruto, Kirin uttered. Kirin, what took place? Naruto thought. Kirin sighed and said, you lost control of your darkness. I told you this will happen. Naruto apologized while glancing down. Don't worry, I'm not upset. At some point, I knew this would happen, I just didn't think it would happen so soon. At least now you know what will happen if you don't have control of your darkness. It will slowly corrupt your mind, Kirin said, shaking his head, and Naruto nodded mentally. You seem to be able to control some of your darkness already. Something else that has happened? Kirin inquired. To Kirin's surprise, Naruto replied, actually there was someone that allowed me to control some of my darkness, recalling the previous girl. Who was it, really? Kirin inquired. I'm not sure, but she didn't give me her name, and she had white hair, Naruto remarked. White hair, is that possible? Cutting Kirin off, Naruto thought, it wasn't Iris, it was someone else. Oh, I see. Based on that, I think her partner must have contacted you at that time, Kirin said. Colleague? So Iris has resided in someone else as well, not just you? Asked Naruto, receiving a nod from Kirin in response. I see, well, whoever her partner is, she managed to let me control some of my darkness better, and she also helped you and Chakra keep me under control of my darkness, Naruto thought. Kirin said incoherently, it seems like you should look in a mirror or something you can see reflection of. Why? What took place? Observe for yourself. Naruto? Yukino looked at him anxiously and began to shake before Naruto could say anything more. For a split second, Naruto lost his sense of location and turned to face Team 10's Sasuke, Sakura, and Kabuto. He then turned to face the three Rain Ninja, the leader of whom was trembling uncontrollably as he stared at him. Turning to face the ground, Naruto saw the Sword of Darkness, and as he bent over to pick it up, everyone watched, bated breathless, as he looked at the sword, or more accurately, at himself through the steel as it revealed his reflection. Naruto was shocked to see that his eyes were blue and green, and that half of his hair was yellow and the other half was black with a hint of red. Naruto thought, I guess that explains why half of my clothes are black and red. Unconsciously reaching out, Naruto conjured up a dark portal, which allowed the Sword of Darkness to enter and vanish. Is it really that simple? I didn't even need to give it much thought? Yeah, since you have some control over your darkness, creating a portal for yourself was not too difficult, but imagine if you had complete control over it, Kirin said. I see, thought Naruto. Naruto, was said by Yukino once more, erasing the blonde from his mind once more. After giving Yukino a brief glance, Naruto said, sorry, it's nothing, as he passed her and moved in the direction of the Earth Scroll, which he picked up and placed in his pouch. Then, as he and Yukino approached his group, Naruto abruptly interrupted them by saying, whatever questions you're going to ask, I'm not going to answer them. This silenced them. Walking past them and casting a final glance at the three Rain Ninja, Naruto said, we wasted too much time here, we need to get going. The other Rain Ninja silently followed him, leaving the lead Rain Ninja there with his still, conscious team members. After an hour of uncomfortable silence as they made their way to the tower, some of the group members glanced at Naruto, especially Yukino. Naruto saw the glances but paid them no mind because he was more concerned with reaching the tower. Kabuto finally broke the silence because he could take it no longer. Naruto, you really displayed some impressive skills there. I'm impressed, Kabuto said. Naruto turned around after giving him a quick glance. Thanks, was his response, and once more the group fell silent until Kabuto broke it. Kabuto questioned, referring to Naruto's red and black side, so what's up with that new look you got on? It's not much, Naruto answered. Are you sure? Yes, Naruto interrupted Kabuto, and before he could say anything more, Naruto spoke up once more. Naruto asked, glancing at Kabuto, what are you trying to get at? Everyone just listened to their conversation and hoped that Naruto would tell them what that power was, especially Sasuke and Yukino, but he didn't tell them. Whoa? Sorry, I was just trying to cut through the tense silence here, Kabuto said, but Naruto knew he was lying. He was trying to get information on what that power was, but Naruto wasn't going to let him have it. Kabuto concluded, well, what you did really saved us a lot of trouble, we really owe ya. When they saw Kabuto, Yukino and Sasuke's eyes narrowed. I see, replied Naruto, and the group carried on their journey. They finally noticed the tower, a massive structure encircled by trees, after what seemed like an eternity. With excitement, Ino exclaimed, hey guys, look, it's the tower. Shikamaru finally said, finally, this exam has been such a drag, and everyone else agreed. Sakura sighed and said, okay, now we can take a much-needed break. Upon reaching the tower, Kabuto was hailed by his teammates and bid them a brief farewell. Team 10 then bid farewell and departed via a different entrance, but not before Ino muttered to Yukino and the half-blonde that she was still in need of an explanation. After giving Yukino the 2 scrolls they needed to pass the exam, despite his initial reluctance, he nodded, and the group entered the building, leaving Naruto and a still drowsing Chakra by themselves. Naruto informed his team that they should enter first. He looked at his black and red half and said, I have to do something about this. Closing his eyes, he focused, feeling his dark power leave his body and return to his soul. When he opened his eyes, he saw him in his full orange and blue jumpsuit. It really is an eyesore, Naruto said, winking. Indeed. Kirin began, I wasn't going to say anything before, but... Ignoring Kirin's laughter in the back of his mind, he thought, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to have to get a new pair of clothes soon. He then pulled out a kunai and gave it a little rub to see himself. When he saw that his yellow hair and other eye had returned to their usual blue color, he sighed once more. Naruto was about to follow his team through the door when he suddenly stopped and turned to watch Kabuto and his group. Feeling suspicious of Kabuto, he decided to spy on them. Summoning his dark powers once more, he looked at Katia, who was still sleeping on his head, and called forth a black cat with green eyes. When the cat materialized, it was staring at Naruto. How ironic, Kirin remarked, but Naruto ignored him and whispered something to the cat. Naruto pointed to the door Kabuto and his team had entered, saying, "Hey little guy, I want you to go sneak through that door right there and spy on some people for me, can you do that?" The black cat nodded and proceeded to complete its mission. As he entered the room where his teammates were, Naruto thought, "Good, now that's taken care of, it's time to deal with this." His team turned to face Naruto as he entered the room and was shocked to see that his half-red, half-black hair had vanished. They considered asking him what had happened, but decided against it. For the first time since the encounter with Orochimaru, it was just Team 7. Sakura tried to defuse the tense situation by reading the message on the door. If qualities of heaven are your desire, acquire wisdom to take your mind higher. If earthly qualities are what you lack, train your body and prepare to attack. When heaven and earth are open together, the perilous path will become righteous forever. This, something, is the secret way that guides us from this place today. Sakura continued, "There's a word missing." While Yukino and Sasuke watched Sakura solve the puzzle, they remained silent. Naruto turned to face his team and said, "I think we're supposed to open and read the heaven and earth scrolls now." Sakuke questioned, "What makes you say that?" "The riddle says if heaven and earth are open together, then the perilous path will become righteous forever. I think we should open the scrolls since there's nothing else except the riddle in this room," said Naruto. After giving it some thought, the other members nodded. Naruto appeared anxious, as did the rest of Team 7, and Yukino displayed the 2 scrolls she had been given, giving one to Naruto and keeping the other for herself. When they got to the end and had nowhere else to go, Yukino held the heaven scroll and Naruto the earth scroll. Their only option was to open the scrolls. Yukino looked at Naruto, and she looked back at him. He said, "On 3, and she nodded. 1. 2 inches. 3. When Yukino and Naruto simultaneously opened the scrolls, they discovered a parchment with a summoning seal. When Yukino began to smoke, Naruto swiftly took the scroll from him and threw it on the ground. He then pulled Yukino back towards him. Suddenly, the team heard a familiar voice, and Naruto grinned a little. The smoke cleared enough for them to see their scarred academy teacher, who said, "You guys just barely met the deadline, but I'm glad you made it." Before realizing Naruto's grown up demeanor and increased stature, Iruka was grinning broadly. To his surprise and confusion, he also noticed a white cat curled up on Naruto's head. "Iruka-sensei!" exclaimed Sakura and Yukino, startled to see their former instructor standing in front of them. He grinned. "It's good to see you all again. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, the riddle on the door represents how to become a well-rounded ninja. It means if you lack heaven, which represents intelligence, that you should study to learn all you can. The other is fairly obvious, that those who lack earth, which represents bodily strength, should train to acquire what they lack," Iruka clarified. Naruto nodded in agreement with Sakura and Yukino, who were nodding attentively to their old sensei, while Sasuke was only giving it a passing glance. "Now I am happy to say you have all passed this part of the exam. I am really proud of you for, especially you Naruto, you've grown physically and mentally," Iruka told them. Naruto grinned slightly and said, "Thank you, Iruka-sensei." With a serious expression on his face, Naruto interrupted Iruka. "The next stage begins in about 1 hour, so take your time to rest before you're summoned. Good luck guys, I'm proud of you." "Hold on, I need to talk with you in private for a moment, can you spare some time?" replied he. Iruka was alarmed when he noticed Naruto's serious expression because he had never seen him act so serious. Maybe something happened. He gestured for Naruto to follow him, saying, "Sure, I can spare some time," as his teammates looked on, wondering what they would discuss. Iruka laughed and said, "So Naruto, what did you want to talk to me about? Also, who is the cat on your head?" "I found her in the forest alone and I didn't want anything to happen to it," he responded. Straight to the point, Naruto asked, "Anyway, is it possible if I can speak with the old man Hokage about something?" Iruka gave it some thought before shaking his head. "Sorry Naruto, but it's impossible at the moment, but if you like I can relay the message that you want to speak with him," replied Iruka. With a curse in his head, Naruto desired to see the elderly man as soon as possible. Kirin said, "It's better than nothing. You can talk with him when the exams end." Initially reluctant, Naruto nodded in his head. He answered, yeah, you're right. I was hoping to talk to him now, but I guess I can wait until later. Iruka nodded in agreement as Naruto said, yeah, that'd be good, thank you. Iruka pointed to 2 doors and said, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that your rooms are just right there behind those doors. She then burst into a cloud of smoke that vanished. With a sigh, Naruto turned to face his squad. They nodded and moved toward the door after he said, Iruka-sensei said that's where we can rest. When Naruto and his group opened the door, they discovered how ironica 4 beds and 2 doors. One door was open, leading to a bathroom, and the other was closed, presumably serving as the entrance to the location they needed to go. Naruto, Yukino, and Sakura were left alone when he witnessed Sasuke enter the bathroom and shut the door. When Sakura interrupted Naruto as he was about to lay Chakra down after moving to one of the beds, he lifted her off his head. Sakura stood in the center of the room with Yukino by her side, saying, look, Naruto, I'm sorry about what happened in the forest. After turning around and giving Sakura one last look, Yukino turned around and said, it doesn't matter anymore, Sakura. What's done is done. Sakura flashed a tiny smile. Sakura was unaware that Yukino, who was staring at Naruto, didn't think they were worthy of their forgiveness for what had transpired. Sakura started to say, I'm glad you could forgive us, it won't hurt, but Naruto interrupted. I don't forgive you, Sakura, not you, Yukino, or Sasuke. Sakura froze, and Yukino bit her lip as she looked down. Although Yukino knew Naruto wouldn't forgive them, hearing him say it aloud still hurt, even though she was right to suffer for leaving him. Sakura's face turned red with rage as she saw Yukino's expression. Sakura stormed out and started to walk towards Naruto, but Yukino shook her head and pulled her back. What is your problem? I made a mistake and I've tried to apologize for it, but you just blow me off. We're supposed to be a team, you idiot, Sakura exclaimed. Sakura, please stop, she murmured. What do you mean, Yukino? I was trying to apologize, but he just doesn't care. I don't know what his problem is, she responded. When Yukino and Sakura noticed Naruto approaching them with his hair blocking his eyes, they retreated until they landed on one of the beds. Naruto then slowly turned around to face his 2 female teammates. You're asking me what my problem is? He asked, his tone too composed, and they could feel the strain his words cause. Shaking his head, Naruto said, my problem, Sakura, is that my teammates abandoned me in the middle of a forest filled with dangerous man-eating animals and enemy ninjas. His bright green eyes were fixed on the 2 trembling girls. They began to say, N. Naruto, I. Silence up, Naruto cut in. Drip. Drip. With tears streaming down his face, Yukino and Sakura were observing Naruto intently. Looking at Yukino, Naruto, I trusted you. I trusted this team with my life. I tried my very hardest to help this team, tried my hardest to not screw up on missions. All of it was so this team can succeed, said Naruto. The girls were just staring at him in shock. They had no idea Naruto had given this any thought, and seeing him cry in front of them made them cry as well. All this time I've been such a fool. I was a fool to think I was a part of this team. I was a fool to think you thought of me as a teammate or even a friend, cause I was an idiot. That's what I am, right? Just the dead last of the class. A fool just trying to get attention. N. Naruto, is that how you think I felt about you? Yukino questioned, appearing a little offended by what he perceived. He answered, why don't you? Everyone else does. Yukino stood up and walked towards Naruto. Naruto, I might be the only person that never thought about you as such. Why do you think I always hung out with you? Helped you with those pranks you did? I never thought of you as a fool or an idiot, so please don't ever think like that again. Naruto shook his head and stepped back. Naruto wiped his eyes and walked back to the bed where Chakra was lying down. Yukino, I'm not going to end our friendship just because of what happened here, but I can't forgive you. I don't even know if I can, but I can't forgive the others. You're the only exception if I choose to, he said. You two need to rest. We have less time now to rest until they call us. Both Yukino and Sakura were crying as they looked at Naruto, who was lying down. They felt terrible, especially Sakura because of how she had treated him. The girls then went to the beds they had selected. Yukino's was next to Naruto's, and Sakura's was in front of Yukino's. After leaving the restroom, Sasuke saw his teammates lying down on the bed and made the decision to follow suit. After a short period of rest, the team heard a knock at the door. They all sat up as Sasuke opened it to reveal an ANBU, who instructed them to follow her since the exam was about to go into its next phase. Yukino went to the restroom to freshen up. Sakura followed suit, and then Naruto. When he was done, he noticed his teammates were waiting for him. They then began trailing the Anbu to a large area where all of the exam takers were waiting. He could see their sensei in the rear and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Hokage, in front of them. Sigh. Looks like our break is over. Team 7's sensei, Kakashi Hitaki, was pleased that his team had completed this section of the exam as they entered the room, but he sensed that something wasn't quite right. Not only that, but the other senseis, examiners, and participants had also noticed the change. In particular, Kakashi felt something was off with Naruto. He wasn't just talking about his height increasing and the white cat perched on his head, surveying his surroundings. He also noticed Sasuke's neck mark, which resembles Anko's. He was informed about this beforehand and instructed to keep a close eye on the Uchiha in case anything happened with the curse mark. I'll have to seal that later, he thought to himself as he turned back to Naruto, who was still acting as though something had happened to him. He then turned to look at the two Kunoichi members of the team, who had their heads down and appeared exhausted. They appeared to have little sleep, but that doesn't seem to be the case as they occasionally glanced at Naruto before quickly averting their eyes with pained expressions, suggesting that something wasn't right. What precisely took place there? Kakashi thought. A man with large eyebrows and black hair, dressed in green spandex, turned to face Kakashi and his group. This man was supposedly Might Guy. I see your team didn't do too bad, Kakashi. They must have gotten really lucky, of course. With my team still around, your team is doomed to failure. After all, what matters in the next test is ability, and we got you far outclassed, Guy said with a smirk. Kakashi asked, not really listening, Did you say something? Guy let out a startled, "Gah," before clenching his fist in exasperation and smiling, causing Kakashi to start perspiring. Hiruzen Sarutobi immediately saw that Naruto had changed. He saw the shift in height and the cat as soon as his team entered the room. That was on his mind, and his lack of expression alarmed him. Iruka had informed him that Naruto wished to talk to him privately, and based on what Enko had told him, he most likely knew what the topic might be. Naruto, what exactly transpired? He contemplated. When Enko approached him next to him and mentioned that he had also addressed the participants. Naruto was aware of his sensei's and the elderly Hokage's stares, but for the time being he didn't care. Using this opportunity, he counted all the teams that made it. All of our classmates, including Lee's, as well as the sound team and the sand team with the crazy redhead, made it, he said, pausing when the Anbu ordered the genin to form a line. Enko gained their attention as they completed the task at hand. With a sly smile, she said, all right brats. First of all, congratulations on finishing the second exam. 78 ninja took the test. 21 of them passed, which surprised me. Though she knew that fewer than half would survive, she still believed that the number would be in the single digits. Shoji muttered, I'm really hungry right now. Shikamaru shook his head and said, seriously? You just had something not too long ago. There's still so many of you as what a drag. Naruto seems to be back to normal. I wonder if he would show off that power again? Ino said, grabbing her teammate's attention as she cast a quick glance at her fellow blonde and expressed her relief that he was back to normal. Shoji and Shikamaru examined Team 7. Yeah, you're right. That's good, but things don't seem to be alright for the team as a whole, Shoji replied. With his teammates nodding in agreement, Shikamaru remarked, I hope everything's alright between them, or else they won't function properly as a team. That's Guy. Sensei's former adversary, huh? Tenten looked at the two senseis and thought to herself. In the meantime, Lee was thinking to himself, Guy Sensei is the coolest teacher ever. You see, Guy Sensei. My youthful flames will one day shine bright like the stars. His flames are blazing brighter and brighter. Neji looked around, evaluating each competitor who went through, saying, as expected, only the best made it through. Neji's eyes quickly settled on two particular people, Sasuke Uchiha. And I'll make sure not to overlook you once more, Naruto Uzumaki. Zaku, in the meantime, glared hatefully at Sasuke, who appeared to be in pretty bad shape and had a cast on his broken arm, but he didn't let that stop him. Sasuke Uchiha. I swear he's going to pay for humiliating me. He muttered angrily. He then turned to face his teammate Dosu, who was cautiously staring at Naruto. Dosu had told him and Kin what had happened, and they couldn't believe either they were saved by Naruto, or rather, it seemed as though they had been spared the Uchiha's wrath. However, Dosu had informed them that Naruto had black hair, but his hair was actually yellow. Blonde. Zaku probably thought Dosu was just hallucinating, but witnessing him act this way toward the blonde made him reconsider. Kiba turned to face Akamaru, who was attempting to blend in by hiding under his owner's jacket. Kiba realized that the reason behind his actions was due to those sand ninja, particularly the man with the red hair, Gaara. He and his group were able to witness that man's power in action, as he was able to control sand and murder all three of his opponents without a second thought, even after they made an attempt to give up. Gaara, whoever he was, didn't seem very human. But his power was nothing like what they had experienced previously. They were fairly certain that everyone in the Forest of Death felt a sudden and tremendous surge of power. The power was indescribable, they never felt overpowered by its sinister presence. However, they had to give thanks to whoever released it, as just as Gaara was about to attack them, they sensed it. He stopped and looked in its direction, and after a few moments, he was beaming maniacally. This allowed them to escape the area, and once they were well out of sight, Kiba asked Hinata to use her Byakugan to identify the source of the power. She claimed to have seen a black figure that resembled a man, but she was alarmed when she saw the figure's green eyes staring back at her, forcing her to deactivate her Byakugan. Hinata, in the meantime, glanced in Naruto's direction and twiddled her index fingers while grinning shyly. Naruto passed too. "I hope everything is okay, even though I'm so happy," she worriedly thought. Sakura muttered, "Hey look, all of the Leaf Village rookies are here too. Seems like no one got left behind this time," Yukino remarked as she surveyed the area. Sasuke put his hand on his shoulder and muttered, "I don't feel very good about this." Naruto simply stood there, taking in his surroundings, until he sensed that Kabuto and the Sound Village sensei were staring at him. Naruto turned to face Kabuto, who gave him a smile and a nod in return. Naruto then turned to face the Sound Ninja sensei, who gave him a smile that stopped short of his eyes. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly but then turned away. "I sense something negative from that guy," he thought. Anko bowed to the Leaf Leader and said, "Lord Hokage, they're all yours. Okay, now pay attention. Lord Hokage is going to explain the third exam to you. I'm going to tell you the true purpose of these exams," Hiruzen said, causing everyone to become tense. "First, before I tell you what the third exam entails, I want to explain something about the test itself." Hiruzen nodded before moving forward to address the teams. The Hokage stood up and revealed that the real intent behind these tests was to imitate a conflict between the villages. He described how they facilitated the development of relationships and showcased emerging talent to prospective clients. Sadly, the third person started to say. The effect was immediate, and the genin began to scream in protest. "It seems too many of you have passed. We will need to conduct a preliminary round to reduce your numbers before the finals. Enough, people all over the world will be coming and there are simply far too many of you." Gaara, the Sand Ninja, gave an impatient glare before stepping forward. "Any test is fine. Just tell what the details of the preliminary round are already. I can handle anything you throw at me." "Very well then. Listen closely because I'm going to tell you what you'll be doing for the second part of the exam," Hiruzen replied. Before he could speak, a Jonin with black hair and a hidden leaf bandana abruptly materialized in front of him and bent over. "Lord Hokage, before you do please allow me, Hayate Giko, appointed as proctor for the third exam. Speak first," Hayate asked with humility. "All right," Hiruzen said with a nod, letting the man advance. The proctor paused mid-sentence to cough. "My name is Gecko Hayate and I will be the proctor for this part of the exam. From this point on we shall have a series of random one-on-one fights to cut you in half. Over to my right there is a screen and your names will appear randomly on the screen. Those chosen will then fight. Before we begin, would anyone like to back out? This is your last chance to do so." Having just arrived, Team 10 appeared uncertain, and Ino glanced worriedly at Team 7. After seeing what their teammates had done and the enigmatic power they had used on the enemy ninjas, Yukino and Sakura cast worried glances at both Sasuke and Naruto, thinking that they should drop out for their own safety. Suddenly, one hand shot up from the genin throng. To everyone's surprise, Kabuto was the one who raised his hand when they all looked. "All right, you got me. I give up," Kabuto uttered timidly. Hayate acknowledged. "Kabuto Yakushi of the Leaf Village, you can step back." "Gotcha." Kabuto gave a nod and moved toward the door. Naruto halted Kabuto in his tracks and asked, "You're quitting?" "Sorry Naruto, but my fight with the Sound Ninja during orientation caused me to go deaf in my left ear. I'm in no shape to potentially fight to the death, besides I'm still kinda worn out by those clones from before," Kabuto said with a sad face. Hiruzen, meanwhile, shot a pointed glance at the boy with silver hair. This young man has dropped out before. Examining her notes, Anko said, "Kabuto Yakushi has average grades and mission standards, but he failed this section of the exam 6 times. Sorry Naruto. Wish I could stick around and play a little longer, but if I did, The old me might get stirred up and it might blow my cover. Wouldn't be much of a spy if that happened. Besides, Lord Orochimaru is here to watch you, and I can't wait for him to witness that mysterious power you carry. Naruto Uzumaki, Kabuto said as he walked back towards the exit. Nobody noticed the sinister smirk that was emerging on his face. Sakura was about to raise her hand to alert the proctors about Sasuke's condition when he clenched his neck more, signaling that his condition was worse. However, Sasuke prevented her from doing so by clenching her wrist, preventing her from getting hurt or going into that berserker state. Sasuke. Sakura muttered in dismay. Sasuke firmly said, "Don't, Sakura. I'm going to stay and fight." Sakura whispered, her eyes about to well up with tears, "But Sasuke. I can't bear to watch you go through that again." "Then don't watch, but let me do this," Sasuke firmly stated. "I need to live up to my title as an Avenger. I want to put my strength to the test against all of the top fighters in this exam, who are all present. I don't think you, Yukino, or anybody else can change the path I take." Sakura appeared to be devastated that Sasuke was dismissing her concerns in order to make a point. "What's the matter with you? She's simply as concerned about you as I am," Yukino remarked. Sasuke said, "That doesn't matter to me now," which upset Yukino. Naruto chose to step in after noticing this. Naruto turned to face his teammates and said, "Hey, lay off them, they're just worried about you. So why won't you?" Naruto intervened, smirking resolutely at the blonde. "You're one of the people I want to fight the most." If it was the Sasuke before he awakened, he would have been happy he was getting the acknowledgement he deserved. But now he barely felt anything from that. Those words truly stunned Naruto. Was it finally happening? Was Sasuke acknowledging his strength and wanting to fight him like a true shinobi? "Don't you think it's a little late for that?" Naruto turned around. "Is there anyone else who wants to leave before we begin? Very well, all of you go upstairs to your Jonin senseis and come back downstairs when your name appears on the screen," the proctor said after pausing for a moment. In the end, teams 7 and 8 were positioned between each other. Aha! The first two names to appear on the screen mostly ignored Kiba's boisterous boast. "Can you believe all us rookies made it this far?" Yoroi Akado versus Sasuke Uchiha. Straight away, Sasuke mused to himself. While Sasuke was heading to the arena, the proctors and the third Hokage remained down the lower level to closely monitor the matches, while the Jonin senseis stood right next to their own students. Team 7 watched anxiously, focusing mostly on the cases of Sakura and Yukino because they didn't want Sasuke to overdo it, while Naruto stood by the wall with his arms crossed. Neji, Gaara, and the two male sound ninja watched with intense gazes, curious about what Sasuke's power would entail. "So, Naruto, would you like to tell me about your new friend there?" With reference to Chakra on his head, Kakashi said. Naruto glanced at his sensei before turning to face Chakra, who was starting to stir. Naruto introduced Chakra, saying, "This is Chakra. I met her in the forest." Chakra then got up and stretched on top of him. "Oh, hello Chakra," Kakashi said. Chakra gave the man a quick glance and responded with a meow. Then, Chakra was perched on Naruto's shoulder, ready to witness the battle. "Chakra, are you okay?" inquired Naruto. "I'm okay, don't worry," she answered. Naruto looked down and said, "That's good, I'm sorry I lost control." "Don't worry, that's what happens when you lack control of your power, especially with darkness," Chakra responded, nuzzling Naruto's face. "Have something happened while I was asleep? Are you okay?" she inquired. "You could say that," he answered. "Do you believe Sasuke is well enough to battle him, Naruto?" Naruto turned to Ino after being shaken out of his reverie, and after that, he went to the arena where Sasuke and his opponent were. Kakashi was surprised by Naruto's response, expecting something more along the lines of, "I'm sure he'll be fine." Ino simply nodded as everyone turned to face the proctor, who began speaking. "If both parties are ready." The proctor paused to ensure that the two genins were set up. "Start." When the proctor signaled for the fight to start, Sasuke ran straight for his opponent, trying to hit him multiple times with punches and kicks, but Yoroi, Kabuto's teammate, ducked under one of Sasuke's kicks and threw him across the room, flipping in the air before landing on his feet. This is the sum of what the powerful Uchiha clan has to offer, huh? It's disappointing to hear this. I promise not to make this go on too long. I'll use my next attack to finish this. Naruto could see that Sasuke was offended by the comments because the Uchiha began to break through some hand seals but stopped midway because he was clutching his neck. Naruto said nothing, just staring down at the fight below, but Ino's worried voice could be heard over Sakura's gasps. It looks like that mark is still hurting him. Getting the blonde's attention, Kirin uttered the word, Naruto. Yes, what is it? Inquired Naruto. You should be careful around that ninja from the sound. He was looking at you from time to time while watching the fight, said Kirin. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he turned to face the sound ninja's sensei, who was observing the battle. Kirin, does he not appear familiar to you for some reason? Inquired Naruto. Well, he does look like that guy from before, the one who put that seal on you. I can tell he has some dark intentions. I am sure you can feel it too. Kirin replied with a nod. He turned to watch the fight and said, okay, I'll watch out for him. It appears he missed part of it. With his jutsu glowing, Yoroi seized Sasuke by the face and exclaimed, it's over. Kaizen, Sakura, Ino, and Yukino yelled. While Kabuto's teammate appeared somewhat rejuvenated, Sasuke struggled under the larger man and managed to uppercut him, taking advantage of the gap to head. But the elder genin and break free from his grasp. Naruto saw that his teammate appeared far more exhausted than he should have. Sasuke glared at the man, and the masked genin just laughed. I see you noticed. My jutsu allows me to drain the chakra of my enemies and add it to my own. So you copied Lee's technique back then? Naruto said, observing the other rookie's gasp in shock as Sasuke glared at him before grabbing his neck in pain. Naruto then turned to face Kakashi, who was observing the match intently. Naruto heard Lee and his sensei guy gasp in disbelief as they watched Sasuke get below Yoroi and kick him up into the air, blurring behind him as Yoroi was hanging in midair. Sasuke grimaced as his mark flared before receding back to the seal, and he kicked Yoroi's side to maneuver himself above him. Sasuke launched a punch to his opponent's face before spinning and hitting him with an elbow that caused the older ninja to hit the ground just as Sasuke landed an axe kick to his stomach that cracked the floor beneath them. He heard his teammate announce the name of his new move, Lion's Barrage. As the proctor approached and looked over the unconscious ninja, Sasuke got to his feet and moved away. The other rookies cheered, mostly Yukino, Sakura, and Ino. Naruto just made a blank face, which Kakashi noticed but still made his way over to Sasuke before he took him away. Ino also noticed Naruto's lack of expression and called him out on it. Yoroi Akato is unable to continue. The winner is Sasuke Uchiha. What's wrong, Naruto? Isn't it great that your teammate won? Her inquiry caught Sakura and Yukino's attention. As the proctor called the next two participants, the conversation came to an abrupt end when he replied, I really didn't care who won the match. Yukino and Sakura looked down in regret. Ino, who had traveled with Team 7 for days, knew how high the tension was, but she believes it escalated more than before. In the subsequent bout, Shino Aburame faced off against Zaku Abumi. Although Shino appeared to have the upper hand due to his cutting sound waves, Zaku's arms imploded as a result of the buildup of chakra and the insects plugging the tiny holes. Hayate had to declare the bout in Shino's favor. There was a stunned silence all around. Naruto looked around, noticing that Ino appeared pale, that all of the rookies and Shikamaru appeared a little green, and that Yukino, who was standing next to him holding onto his jacket, was staring at Shino with an expression of disgust, which makes sense given that when they were younger, she disliked bugs and other creepy crawlies. Chakra turned away and remarked, I have to be honest, but that was creepy and disgusting. Naruto remarked, I have to agree with you, I had no idea he could do something like this. With a slight shiver, Ino leaned onto Naruto and said, I always thought he was creepy in the academy, but that was a whole new level of disturbing. Sakura nodded. When Yukino noticed how Ino was leaning on Naruto, her eyes twitched, and Hinata's expression changed to one of worry and confusion. How did they become so close? She wondered. Could you two get off of me? People are going to make assumptions, said Naruto. Oh, sorry, Yukino said as she quietly retreated. Ino grimaced but nodded. Kiba made the following comment. Hey, Shino is always quiet but he's dangerous. He's probably the opponent I would like to fight least out of all us rookies. Shikamaru responded with a quiet, troublesome, and silence. When the rookie's lone female sensei glanced at her fellow jonin, Asuma said, That's a scary kid you got there, Kurenai. The proctor called the match before any of the senseis could make a move. He has the best chance out of everyone here to make Chunin. Shino's teammates greeted him with a pat on the back from Kiba and a small smile from Hinata as he made his way upstairs. After climbing the stairs once more, Kakashi approached his squad. Fearful, Yukino inquired, Kakashi-sensei, is Sasuke okay? You don't have to worry Yukino, your boyfriend is fine, there's nothing to worry about, said Kakashi. Sakura sighed, and Yukino blushed slightly as she glanced at Naruto, who was still expressionless. Everyone's eyes shifted to the screen as it scrolled through the names, finally settling on Kankuro and Masumi Tsurugi, Kabuto's third teammate, who, like his partner, had cloth covering his mouth and a bandana, but his glasses weren't blacked out. Without saying a word, the two genins made their way down and were soon squared up facing each other. Would both contestants please make their way down? If both of you are ready. Start. Fool, you should never have allowed me to get so close, Masumi said as he rushed Kankuro, who did nothing but stand there. Eventually, Masumi wrapped his body around Kankuro, causing his limbs to bend at strange angles. With the help of my jutsu, I can move my arms, legs, and dislocate my joints to perfectly trap my opponents. Give up or I'll snap your neck, he said in a direct and assured manner. I refuse. Despite being in such a position, Kankuro remained composed. Naruto narrowed his eyes and saw that there was no movement in his chest. He's not breathing, Naruto said, paying close attention to the fight. Then, Masumi carried out his threat by twisting Kankuro's neck. Gasps echoed from people around the room as he dropped Kankuro's lifeless body onto the floor and turned to face the proctor, saying, "You should have listened." "Call the match," he yelled, startled when he found himself enveloped in Kankuro's body, as if he had held him only moments before. He turned to see his face peeling away to reveal a wooden puppet underneath. "Howard." Masumi looked stunned and then turned to face the proctor as Kankuro's voice came from the bundled wrap his puppet was carrying on the ground. "From the beginning, you never stood a chance." Before he could say anything more, Naruto noticed Kankuro clench his hands. Suddenly, the room shattered with the sound of breaking bones as his opponent collapsed to the ground, unable to stand. Proctor called the match for Kankuro quickly as medics arrived and took Masumi away. Naruto looked around, noting that Sakura and Ino had a sickly face. Yukino narrowed her eyes. "Hey, now it's over." "Why was he on the verge of giving up?" Chakra asked. Gazing at Chakra, Naruto remarked, "That's how people fight in the shinobi world, it's either kill or be killed." In this case, however, he was just acting for fun. "Are you alright?" he inquired. "Yes, I'm alright, it just caught me off guard," she answered. "I can't believe he would do that. As long as there is no outside assistance, anything is allowed. You fight until your opponent gives up, becomes unconscious, or is killed is the only rule. That's what we were hoping to escape the forest of death, after all." Many were caught off guard by Naruto's stern tone, most notably his team sensei, who was staring at him with one eye open. The screen quickly scrolled through more names before stopping on two very familiar names. Yamanaka Ino versus Sakura Haruno. Wonderful. Sakura had to be the person she had to face out of everyone? Without thinking, Shikamaru said, "It's just going to be a slap fight," which caused Kiba to laugh aloud and Kurenai to smack his head to stop. Even Naruto had to suppress a smile at that remark, and Yukino grinned awkwardly. As the proctor yelled at Sakura and Ino to come down, they glared at him and then at each other competitively. Everyone turned to face Naruto in shock after he said, "Good luck, Ino." Sakura initially had a betrayed expression but quickly covered it with sadness as she descended. "You too, Sakura," Naruto remarked, and Sakura paused, turning to face him once more before grinning and nodding. Sakura glared at Ino as she said, "Thanks Naruto, but I don't need luck against forehead." Naruto just nodded and shrugged as Ino started to walk down the hall, speaking to his most rowdy pupil. When Kakashi said, "Wow Naruto, I didn't know you got yourself a girlfriend," he was expecting his student to splutter and blush as he denied his claims. However, he didn't get the desired effect. Instead, Yukino, Hinata, and Ino all showed signs of change. Hinata's and Yukino's eyes twitched and frowned, and Ino's face blushed while flashing a smile. What he got caught him off guard and left him wondering what was wrong with his student. It also caught the attention of Hinata and her sensei as well as Ino's team. "Kakashi sensei is not my girlfriend, Ino." Everyone questioned whether Naruto was the one helping them in the forest, but his cool response convinced them it was indeed him. They heard the proctor ask if both fighters were ready before he could press the issue, and they both nodded. "Start now." The proctor jumped back from the two girls who simply stared at each other. Before removing their forehead protectors from their individual places on their body and tied them around their foreheads. The two glared at each other before running at each other, meeting in the middle of the room engaging in a taijutsu match. The two began to exchange punches and kicks, but neither was landing a blow on the other. Sakura jumped back and created two clones and rushed Ino, who merely scuffed and threw 3 kunai, one to each Sakura, and saw the middle one dodged and the other two simply disappeared when the kunai went through them. "You're gonna have to try harder than that forehead," Ino mocked her rival. Sakura said nothing and began an exchange again until Ino overextended a punch and Sakura was able to land a right-handed punch to her face. The two separated after Sakura landed her punch and Ino smirked. "I'm glad you're taking this seriously." Since this was not working, Sakura scowls and tries another strategy. "I always take things seriously, unlike you who spends too much time caring about how she looks." With a drop of sweat, Yukino thought, "Weren't you the same?" When the rookies and their senseis turned to face Naruto, he covered his mouth and made a noise, then turned back to face them. As he turned to face the arena, he said, "Got something stuck in my throat," and the male members of Team 10 nodded and exchanged glances. "All right, then. Allow me to demonstrate my seriousness." With a tone full of rage, Ino raised her hands in her clan's unique jutsu. Ninja Arts. Mind Transfer Jutsu. As Ino's body fell to the ground, Sakura, who was aware of what the jutsu had done, leapt out of the way. "Hey, I win Ino.Pig. Sakura's celebration was cut short as she felt her get restrained and she looked down to see Ino's hair bind her. "What is this?" "This is my hair trap jutsu. I faked it because I knew you would avoid my first move. You can't dodge now." Ninja Arts. Mind Transfer Jutsu. Ino used her technique and fell limp again as Sakura stood up, her hair falling to the ground. Sakura spoke to the proctor slowly, raising her hand and biting her lip hard enough to draw blood before she could finish. Ino jumped up from unconsciousness, looking around, confused, and both Kunoichi appeared to be breathing heavily. "I don't know how you managed to escape, but it doesn't matter, you're going down," Ino said, looking as though a gust of wind would knock her down. "Bring it, Ino." Sakura and Ino then rushed at each other, then simultaneously punching each other until knocking themselves unconscious. The rest of Team 7 and 10 let out a sigh. The proctor declares the match a draw, and soon after the medical team wakes up Ino and Sakura. Both of them look happy and determined even though they lost and neither would advance. Naruto turns when he hears 10. 10 laugh and spots Kurenai giving both Asuma and Kakashi disapproving looks. "It means that if you had faced any of the Sound Ninja or the Red-headed Sand Ninja, you would have died." Naruto's statement sent shivers down their spines as they looked at the redhead who was releasing copious amounts of killing intent. "Go 10. 10. Show them your flames of youth." Naruto's attention was brought to Lee and he looked towards the screen to see Temari vs 10. 10. Ino and Sakura looked at Naruto with curious expressions. The two Kunoichis had already descended the stairs. "Thank you for allowing me to move past the disappointment of the last match, 10. 10. Sakura and Ino were taken aback by that statement. "HMPH, let's see about that." Temari responded, preparing for a fight. "Hey Yukino," Ino said, attracting the girl's attention. "Hey Ino, that was a good match between you and Sakura," Yukino said. "Thanks, but listen, I am not going after Sasuke anymore," she said, shocking Yukino. With a troubled expression that left Yukino perplexed, "I'm tired of fighting with Sakura over him. He never even showed any interest in us in the first place, and that's not all. Every time I think about him, it's not the same feeling as before." She questioned, "What do you feel then?" "I feel cold, afraid, it's nothing like how I used to feel for him." Ino responded by looking at Yukino with his eyes. "I'm telling you Yukino, something is seriously wrong with him, it's your life, and if you want to continue to be with him that's for you to decide it." Yukino inquired, "Why are you saying this?" Looking at Naruto and Yukino doing the same, Ino said, "I'm worried about you, it's just what he did to Sakura back in the forest and his way of speaking towards you. It scared me and it makes me glad Naruto showed up when he did to stop him." Upon considering Ino's words, Yukino couldn't find anything wrong with what she had to say about Sasuke. She was concerned because, whatever that mark was, it was altering him. She has a lot on her mind, that much is certain. Also, Ino started to remove Yukino from her mind as she observed her. "I'm not just worried about you but Naruto as well. He's been acting differently since we've been in the Forest of Death. The way he handled those rain ninja for us and the way he was about to kill one of them, I can tell that wasn't him," concluded Ino. Though it hurt to hear him say what he said to her and Sakura, Yukino instantly agreed with Ino that the Naruto she knew was different from the Naruto from before. Nevertheless, this all began when she left him in the forest, and his previous words continued to play in her mind. This didn't change the fact of what she had done. Yukino said, "I agree. I'm going to keep an eye on him," and Ino nodded. Yukino shook her head and Ino asked, "Did he ever show any signs of that power before?" "No, this is the first time I saw that kind of power as well." Yukino said, "We should watch the rest of the fight," to which Ino nodded before moving in Naruto's direction. He asked, "You alright?" And Ino grinned. "Yes, I am." Naruto said, "That's good," as he turned to face the battle. Ino inquired, "So what's happening?" "A drawback," Naruto answered. "A weapon user and a wind user were incredibly one-sided." Naruto declared, "If she has nothing else, she will lose." 10. 10 launched herself into the air while raining down more weaponry, removing 2 scrolls from the kunai holsters on her leg. With a sly smile on her face, Tamari let loose a gust of wind that lifted 10. 10 and forcefully slammed her against her folded fan. 10. 10 was lying there for a moment when the proctor declared the match. Lee hurried to retrieve his teammate, who was subsequently carried away by the paramedics. Guy looked at Neji, disappointed, and said, "Poor 10. 10, she had a horrible matchup. She wasn't fated to win today." Lee's voice was hard as he spoke to the Sand Kunoichi. "Whatever kid, she's lucky I went easy on her." Lee glared at the Sand team as he made his way up. Naruto noticed this and thought, "Fate?" He pondered, "Since when did fate control our futures?" A tap on his shoulder caught Naruto's attention, so he turned to face Yukino. He inquired, "What is it?" As she pointed at the monitor, she said, "Look." Naruto glanced at the screen. "It appears that it's time. Time is of the essence." The next fighters were displayed on the screen as they prepared to fight. Uzumaki Naruto vs Kiba Inuzuka.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.